Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, everyone. Welcome back to another episode, a new episode of a new show on our channel called Islamic Ruling Live Show. So, in this show, we will be discussing a various different topic regarding various different subject. So today we'll be discussing the topic of is gender a social construct. Uh, uh, Joining me today is brother Amy and Jay. Assalamu alaikum, brother. How are you?
Walaikum salam. I'm good right now. Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Sure, no problem. So, have you heard of this argument that gender is a social construct?
Well, I think it has been pushed by some ETs before, but not really because I don't really debate ETs as you know. Right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So we're still waiting for brother Moel to join us. Hopefully, he'll join us in a few short minutes. So basically, what we want to do is that we want to react to a certain YouTuber, and he or she, I guess you can call it that. So basically, this person used to be a man, and he then later on had a sex change operation and became a woman. And so then he basically studied philosophy, and he made a video called "Is Gender a Social Construct?" So we'll be reacting to it, inshallah. So have you heard of this guy before, Philosophy Tube?
To be honest, no, not until you introduce me to him, her, it.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm
uh,
I'm not really sure. I'm confused myself. I don't know what to call him, her, or it.
you can call it it. I mean, that's the thing. Like one of the things that like they call. Have you heard of the term they them?
Yes, yes, I have. Yeah.
So basically, there's this term called they them. So some people would like to get be their preferred pronoun is like they them, and not necessarily you know
Yeah, because
he
it,
or
it
she.
leads back to the argument that gender is a social construct and they
Yeah,
just
yeah,
want
yeah,
to be neutral, right? Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And it's kind of funny because like I mean, this whole thing used to be a joke. Wallahi, I'm going to be completely honest with you. Like this whole thing used to be a joke. Like people used to make memes out of it. And like right now, if you don't like use their correct pronouns, you're gonna get in serious trouble in the West. Have you heard of like the laws that are being placed right now in the West?
No, I haven't been following to be honest. Yeah.
So apparently in the West, they're like putting in place certain type of laws that doesn't allow you to like basically they're putting restriction. Like for example, if you like call a transgender person like a he or she, then that might even be against that can get you into legal trouble sometimes. Have you heard of this?
No, no, this is the first time I've heard of it.
Yeah, yeah. So I think Jordan Peterson got into trouble regarding this, and and this is funny because like so basically it's kind of like blasphemy law, right? So basically you say anything against them, and they're gonna put you on blast, and it's just absurd. And so, by the way, do you guys like have like transgender people in Malaysia? If you don't mind me asking.
Yes, of course we do. But I don't think the influence has extended much as how it is in the West, although there are attempts to make it so. Okay.
Uh,
They are lobbying. They are aligning themselves very strongly with the feminist groups, with the pro human rights groups, etc.
uh,
So this is what's happening in Malaysia.
so so basically they're like a left-leaning group, or is it like more right?
I would say they are more like anti-establishment, anti-religious, anti-conservative kind of a
Uh,
group. Yeah, then it's not really left or right per se. Uh,
uh, so so kind of like the ex-Muslims there. Like they are there like
Pretty
ex-Muslim
much,
there?
yes. Pretty much. Of course they are.
Ah,
Of course they are. As for the ex-Muslims, of course they don't have an official organization of their own because if they do that, then they will be persecuted by the state. Okay, because
uh,
at least we have laws against apostasy. But
mhm.
as I said before, these laws are not adequate. I mean, it's just a fine. Basically, if you get arrested, you probably get fined like 5,000 ringgit, and that's it.
Uh-huh.
At worst, you can get jail time at maybe a few months, and
Okay.
that's it. So it's nothing like the Sharia of concerning or the hard law regarding
Yeah, yeah.
apostasy. Not even close, right?
Yeah, I mean, like nowadays, like Muslim politicians don't have the balls to like do something like that, you know? I mean,
Because these kind of things, if they are being tabled, if these laws are tabled in the parliament, then all these groups, these feminist groups, these pro human rights groups, and they will make a
yeah,
lot of noise. And that's the problem.
yeah.
You see, they lobby against against this, and they will even go as far as to go to the UN to appeal
Ah,
against to seek their help
yeah,
in
yeah,
trying to convince the government to not table this kind of laws. So that's
yeah,
the problem. That's the world we live in now. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, have you heard of like the whole Brunei situation that happened?
Oh, you mean the when Brunei decided to have the Sharia in their
Yeah, yeah,
law?
yeah, yeah,
Yes, I'm aware of it. But of course, Brunei is different because they are full monarchy, and they have oil. They have the power of oil, so they are a very rich state. So it
yeah,
doesn't matter whether anyone wants to boycott them. Uh, if people wants to boycott them, then they will lose out. So
yeah,
they can do whatever they want. Brunei is different and they are a very small state anyway. So
yeah,
they're so small that it's pointless to boycott them. Okay. It's really pointless. Yeah. So that is why I think Brunei now is actually doing these Sharia laws, and no one's making a fuss because they are a very small country. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And the thing is that like even then, like so basically there was like a lot of like movement in regarding the whole Brunei situation. So, so before we get to anything, I feel like we should maybe clarify what the Islamic ruling is, so we can understand like what is the actual Islamic position regarding, transsexuals are. So basically, in a nutshell, Islamically, this is haram. Okay, so
It is. It
so
is.
there are
Yeah.
many hadith where the Prophet ﷺ cursed people who dresses like a woman. And so basically the ruling is that anyone, so basically these people are basically known Islamically as mukannath, right? So basically they are people, they're men who dresses like woman, but the same ruling applies to women who dress like men as well. So in Sunan Abi Dawud, let me just share the screen so you guys can see. uh, Here we go. Can you see it? Can you see the screen?
Yep. Yep. I can see it. Yeah.
Okay, so there's a whole chapter in Sunan Abu Dawud, uh, where Imam Abu Dawud actually talks about this, and basically, it's the chapter heading is like the ruling regarding effeminate men. So these are talking about men who are like more feminine and dress like a woman, basically. So they're known as like the mukhannat men. So there's a hadith which says the following: an effeminate man or mukhannath who had dyed his hands and feet with henna was brought to the Prophet ﷺ. He asked, "What is the matter with this man?" He was told, "Messenger of Allah, he imitates the look of a woman." So he issued an order regarding him, and he was banished to a Naki. And the people said, "Messenger of Allah, should we not kill him?" He said, "I have been prohibited from killing people who pray." Abu Usma said, "Naki is a region near Medina and not Baki." This hadith has been graded by the graded as Sahih by Sheikh Albani. You can read about this in Sunan Abu Dawud 4928. So that's basically the ruling. So the ruling is that if someone dresses like a woman, then they're banished, right? Now, the
Yes.
reason
That's
for
right.
this is because, so basically, back then, and there's another hadith that actually explains this. Back then, what these people used to do is that they actually used to go to both women and men and spread information. Right? So basically, like rumors and gossip. So when the Prophet ﷺ found out about it, he didn't like it. So he basically banished them. So, so basically, they are not killed as long as they pray and they don't practice sodomy, and basically they live in isolation or in a separate area, but they are not killed. Now, so basically, there are like two types of mukannat, right? For example, there's the type one, which is that some people or men who are like more feminine, or women who are more manly, but they don't behave like them, like they don't dress like them, right? And there's nothing wrong with with them. Like there are brothers and sisters in faith. There's nothing wrong with them. But if they actually dress like a woman or man, then the ruling is that they're actually sent into isolation or live made to live in a separate area, because that is actually haram to do. You cannot do that. You cannot dress like a woman. And so, but if they practice sodomy, then they get even harsher punishment. So that is the ruling. This is haram. You cannot like dress like a woman or even have sex change operation. That's even worse. So yeah. By the way, bro, should we like get started with the reaction, or do we like wait a little bit longer?
I don't know. It's up to you. Yeah.
Yeah. I let me see if I can reach out to Brother Moel. He's taking a little longer. I don't know where he is right now. Uh, Hold on, let me just send him a message. Yeah, sorry about that. I think maybe he's stuck. Maybe he's busy or something. But anyway, I think we should get started.
Yeah.
So let me
I
pull
think
up the
so too.
video.
Yeah. Let's go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. So by the way, did you just woke up? You sounded a little like you're sleeping.
Nah, I just pretty much spent the day in bed, and I was watching. I was binge watching. To be honest, I was watching several Netflix series. Yeah.
What were you watching?
Just a couple of shows. Not very Sharia friendly shows. Yeah.
Okay, let me just pull it up. Add. All right. All right. Let me just share the screen. Okay. Can you see it,
Yeah, it's
bro? Can you
loading.
see
It's
it?
loading. Yep. Yep. I can. Are we going
Okay.
to react to the whole video or just certain parts of it?
Uh, I think we can speed it up. Like we can do like two x speed if you like.
Yeah, I think we should do that because yeah, don't think we should take too much time on this.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Hold on. Can I just say this is actually a man, by the way? Okay. So basically, he had a sex change operation. I think back in like a few months ago.
I
Because the
see.
thing is, he actually has videos of him being a man on his YouTube channel. Okay.
Oh, I
So
didn't really explore his channel, so I didn't know. I don't know, to be honest.
yeah. So
When
basically, he has
so
yeah
I
yeah
wouldn't
yeah.
know. If you didn't tell me that he's a she, she's a he, I wouldn't know. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So basically, he has like his videos on YouTube channel where he's fully man, like he has like beards and stuff. Then later on, so basically, he's I think he's like a teacher, a student on philosophy, like he has a PhD, I think. And
Okay,
later on, I think that he was basically left leaning. She's basically like a liberal, socialist liberal. So basically, at one point, she like, or he, should I say, got into deep into like philosophy and like this type of politics stuff. And then later on, just changed her appearance. Like he just became a woman all of a
okay,
sudden.
all
But
right.
anyway, so yeah, let's continue. Hold on, I want to stop at 2 minutes 16 seconds.
My name's Abigail. I've just been doing a little bit of body modification work. Welcome to Philosophy Tube. Every now and again, when I'm out and about in the world, I'll see somebody say something and immediately think, that's got to be an episode of the show. Usually, it's somebody very passionately defending a philosophical viewpoint without necessarily realizing the depth of what they are saying. And to me, that's like a bat signal. I grab my tools and I go to work. I want to pop the hood on what they've said and take a little of the philosophy inside. And today, I have found a doozy. There's a British website called Mumsnet. It's a forum for parents. And a while ago, there was a thread that started with, "Mother is a social construct. Discuss." And one lady wrote,
By the way, can I just say how stupid and ridiculous this is? Like, mother is a social construct. Like, are you
Yeah,
serious?
yeah. Sounds really insane, to be honest.
I mean, so basically, she went like in this crackhead kind of like website and saw a bunch of crackheads discussing this, and she thought that like maybe this is like a good thing to talk about. But anyway,
"Carrying and birthing my child was not a social construct." And I saw that and I was like, ah, philosophy tube time, baby. This lady was actually making a metaphysical claim. Metaphysics is a bit of philosophy that broadly looks at existence. So if ethics is, how do I be a good driver? And aesthetics is, how do I make my car look cool? Metaphysics is, what are cars? What are they made of? How do they work? If you were to take a class, you might look at things like causation, free will, space, and time. I once had a metaphysics lecture where the professor argued that time does not exist, which was very funny because, no joke, he turned up 10 minutes late. So when I saw that comment, I wondered two things. Firstly, what is a social construct? And secondly, why do people sometimes have such strong feelings about them? Fasten your seatbelts.
so we can skip the intro. All right, okay, so basically, before we get into anything, we should probably lay down the argument. So basically, my position is that obviously, gender or being a mother is not a social construct. So the argument can be boiled down to a very simple argument. Hold on, let me just share the screen so you guys can see. Um, hold on, let me just. Here we go. Can you see it?
It's loading. Okay, now I can see it. Yeah.
Okay, okay. So this is basically my argument. It's a modus ponens. So basically, the argument is like this, right? Premise one: if an idea is both biologically and psychologically rooted, then it cannot be called a social construct. Premise two: being a mother or being a particular gender is both biologically and psychologically rooted. The conclusion is that therefore neither being a mother or being a gender like man or woman can be called a social construct. So that's basically the argument. Okay. So anything that is biologically rooted cannot be called a social construct. Okay. Like for example, saying that disease, right? So for example, if someone has a disease and people have ideas based on that disease, like how to treat it, how to take care of it, that's not a social construct. Like it doesn't matter what society thinks of it. It's still true that that person has a disease, and there's still a true way to like deal with that disease, right? Like, would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, it's saying that so anything that is biologically rooted cannot be a social construct. So basically, social constructs are things that are like vague ideas or arbitrary ideas based on that exist in a society that is not based on some kind of uh, intrinsic properties of the object, right? So, for example, like take the game of like basketball, right? So, basketball in it of itself does not have any meaning, right? Like we give it meaning. Like for example, when we're watching it, it's based on the rules of people that that makes the ruling. Like for example, if you look at like the night sky, see you see the like the star clusters. Different civilization gave it different names, right? Because that in and of itself does not have any meaning, but when other people see it they give it meaning, right? So that is basically a social construct. So social construct are basically things that people can disagree on. Like for example, you know what's a good movie, right? For example, certain people in society may say this is a good movie, other people may disagree. So that's like a social construct, something that arbitrary, right? But she's trying to make the argument that gender itself is arbitrary when it's not, it has never been. So like what are your like thoughts on this? Bro, you there? Assalamu alaikum, bro. How are you?
Alaikum salam. How you doing?
I'm doing alhamdulillah. How are you?
Alhamdulillah. Just give me 1 second.
Okay, okay, sure, sure.
Okay, yes, there was a feedback, so I had to turn off the YouTube channel.
Yeah, yeah, sure. Sorry about
Sorry
that.
about that, by the way. There was a confusion because I thought
Yeah,
it was gonna be like yesterday at 1 p.m. instead of
yeah.
10, but I made a mistake. But
Yeah,
anyway,
yeah,
it's
sure.
good that I joined. You just began, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I just
Okay,
began. I would like a few minutes. I was kind of waiting for you.
okay, sorry.
So we haven't been there long. By the way, let me introduce to you. This is Brother Amy and Jay. Brother Amy, Jay, can you hear us?
MENJ, salam alaikum.
Brother, can you hear us? So I think he's having like internet connection issues.
Okay.
Uh, bro, can you hear us? Yeah, I think he'll come back in a few minutes. So basically, I actually wanted to share a scientific study that I found. Let's see, where is it? Okay, here we go. So this is in PubMed. So in case you guys don't know, PubMed is a very well-established peer-reviewed journal, one of the top peer-reviewed journal, scientific journals, and they have a paper where they talk about pregnancy as a psychological event. So basically, when it comes to in terms of like women getting pregnant, it has certain psychological effect on women, right?
Yes.
So they actually talk about this, and in their abstract, they say that uh, apart from psychological and somatic changes, pregnancy is complex phenomenon which it also includes psychological and social changes. Pregnancy, especially the first one, represent a powerful psychological event. This paper deals with pregnancy as a psychological event, considering psychological change in the course of pregnancy as a stressful event. Psychological change during pregnancy. Pregnancy is always associated with change in psychological functioning of pregnant women. It is usually associated with ambience, frequent mood change varying from anxiety, fatigue, exhausting sleepiness, depression, reaction to extreme excitement. During pregnancy, changes including body appearance, effectively, and sexuality, whereas the position and role of women attains a new quality. Even thoughts of pregnancy can bring about numerous worries with its course and outcome, and especially of the delivery itself, which may be so intense that they may require a feature of phobia, which may be the reason for avoiding pregnancy. So basically, oftentimes what happens that women get afraid of this, so they can have developed a type of phobia of pregnancy. Uh, they also say that pregnancy is identified as a potent stressor that can seriously affect the psychic status of pregnant women, perinatal outcome, but also psychic functioning of the newborn individual. Appropriate relationship of partner and support of the society play an important role in overcoming stress during pregnancy. Conclusion: pregnancy is an event that involves numerous somatic psychological changes. So basically, what they're saying is that when it comes to pregnancy and women becoming pregnant, this can affect them very, very psychologically. Now, obviously, if you're a man, you can't have that. No matter how much you may want to, this is not possible for a man to emulate these type of experiences. So, so it's kind of I find that ironic that Abigail wants to portray this as like some kind of a wishy-washy thing, but this the truth is that this is not. There are certain experiences that a woman experiences that is impossible for man to experience, and vice versa. And this is not just biological; this is also psychological. So yeah. So what are your thoughts on this? Like,
Yeah, I mean, if I'm not mistaken, I don't really have my notes now, but I gotta look for them. Even Simone de Beauvoir acknowledges these things in her book, The Second Sex. If I'm not mistaken, that's the name. I gotta look it up. One sec. Yeah, she acknowledges that basically women and men, psychologically and biologically and physiologically and so on, are not the same. You know, they don't function the same. And she acknowledges that even her husband is superior. She calls him that. You know, I'm paraphrasing obviously because I don't have the notes on me right now, but yeah. So pretty much the psychological functionality of a woman is not the same as a man, and vice versa. So
yeah,
so at the end of the day, we have to assess things that are rooted
yeah,
biologically.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, these psychological issues are basically are rooted in biology. So,
Yes.
you know, these are not things that can be hand waved away. There's another study actually. This is in the. Let me see if I can share it. This is also in a peer-reviewed journal, Frontier, I believe.
Yes.
Let me just share it.
You haven't began the video yet.
I have gone a little bit. I think we are into 2 minutes.
2 minutes. Okay, that's good enough. That's like the intro.
Yeah, yeah, it's like the
Okay.
intro.
Okay.
Okay. Uh, by the way, bro, Amy and Jay, can you hear us? I think he's muted. Hold on. Brother Amy and Jay, can you hear us? Yeah, I think he'll come back later on. Let me
Okay.
just
No problem.
share screen. Here we go. Okay. So here it is. Gender difference in personality across the 10 aspect of the Big Five. So basically, this is based on a lot of different studies. So basically, so there have been many numerous studies done on psychology of man versus woman, and they have found that. So basically, they have like 5 criteria, and within their 5 criteria, they have
Yes.
found numerous differences in almost all the criterias. Right? So, for example, they have certain different names of these criteria. Let me see. Hold on, I have notes here. Okay. So the first one is neuroticism. So neuroticism describes the tendency to experience negative emotion and related procession in response to perceived threat and punishment. These include anxiety, depression, anger, self-consciousness, and emotional liability. Women have been found to score higher than men. So this shows a clear distinction between women and men. So women are basically more prone to perceived threat and punishment, uh, and they are more prone to like anxiety, depression, anger, and self consciousness. So in terms of these levels, they're basically score higher, and this is the same in all of these other categories as well. So this is basically what the study says. So basically, it says that this paper investigates gender difference in prospective traits, both at the level of Big Five and at the sub-level of 2 aspects within each 5 domain, replicating previous findings. So basically, this paper shows what the previous findings already showed, which is that there are genuine psychological difference between man and woman. Now, obviously, this is not something that can be, hand waved away. Like
This
there's a
is the
genuine
recent.
difference.
This
Yeah,
is
yeah,
the recent review. Yeah, even like I mentioned before, in Second Sex by Simone de Beauvoir, who's a feminist, second wave feminist,
yeah,
she
yeah,
acknowledges that women are more emotional and
yeah, yeah,
than men, and so on and so forth.
yeah.
And she lists
They're
a
more
lot of things.
agreeable too.
Excuse
Yeah,
me.
this is funny. This is funny. So basically, the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ where where you have a rule that
Yes.
there needs to be 2 witnesses,
Yes.
right?
Yes. Yes.
But there only needs to be one witness. There's actually scientific reason for that. Actually, so for
Yeah. Yeah.
example, what the study showed is that women are more agreeable.
Yes.
So basically, they cannot be relied on too much as a witness as compared to a man. And so this shows that there's genuine difference between man and woman, especially when it comes to psychology. And and this shows that like you know uh, so this whole idea that like man and woman are the same, or their gender difference are the same, is just nonsense. But let me just pull up the video so we can continue. Where is it? Here we go. Okay, so I accidentally closed it. Let me share the screen. Okay, here we go. All right, can you see it?
Yeah. That's the
Can you s-
video. Yes.
yeah, yeah, okay. So also there are other papers as well. So for example, there's one paper in Tand Offline, which talks about how menstrual cycles also have a psychological effect on women, which is obviously something that man cannot experience. And again,
Yes.
this is rooted in biology. So that's another one. But regardless, I think we should continue with the video. Here we go.
Philosophers draw a useful distinction between an object and its properties. This car is silver. It has the property being silver. I could paint it a different color, take that property away, give it a new one, but it would still be the same object. You might well wonder, how many of the properties can we take away before the object is gone? If I give this car new paint, new engine, new brakes, new electricals, is it still the same car?
Can
That's
you?
a question a
Yeah, yeah,
metaphysician.
Okay, yeah. Just if you don't mind, I usually tell this to everyone when I go on a podcast, the reviewing videos. If you
yeah,
don't mind, just keeping the mouse on the video so we can see the time.
yeah, yeah,
And in this section, I just want to make a point. So basically, so the viewers can be acquainted with the video if they're not, if they haven't seen it before. In this video, Abigail, the individual, the author of the video,
yeah,
basically, what they trying to, you know, uh, portray in the video, and is basically this. So she'll talk about different views of philosophers. She'll
yeah,
talk about the different views and lay them out, but she herself would not will not pick a will not pick a specific view. So that video ends up becoming vague. What's your stance? Because as a viewer myself, I wanted to ask the question, what is your stance? But towards the end of the video, even though the author wants to come off as neutral as possible,
yeah,
but towards the end of the video, you will notice the biases and the prejudices and the preconceptions of the author that the author is trying to project
yeah,
towards the viewer. But before doing so, they want to basically use this smoke mirror by with the theme, with the mechanic shop theme, to beguile the audience. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, yeah,
So you have this individual talking about different views. For example, objects. Some authors viewed objects to be distinguished from their properties, but
yeah,
other authors, like in bundle theory, for example, they'll
yeah,
say no, it's holistically the properties and the object holistically define the object. So, for example, an apple has redness, has
yeah,
juiciness, has fruitness, has roundness, and all these things in bundle theory is what makes an apple. Okay,
yeah,
so this is one stance that philosophers take. But again, I want to mention, because every time I come on a podcast discussing philosophy, I have to emphasize that there has been more disagreement in philosophy than any other discipline. And
yeah,
this is why this individual, this author, is comfortable laying out these positions, because there is disagreements no matter what. So the author assumes now that this might favor his stance by saying that, it's just all a social construct. At the end of the day, we can just impose our own thinking.
yeah. Yeah, and another thing is that if she's like trying to imply that somehow these can be used to justify like, gender change and whatever, then that's kind of ridiculous because this analogy does not apply to human beings. I mean, even like the ship of Theseus, like you can change a ship, but you
Yes.
can't change DNA. I mean,
No, no,
you,
no. You can't change DNA, exactly. Yeah. And the
yeah,
ship of Thesis, glad that you mentioned it.
yeah,
The ship of Thesis also applies in this, because the ship of Thesis is also in, if I'm not, let me just double check. Yeah, the ship of Thesis is in a persistence problem, which is
yeah,
a part of the bundle theory of self.
yeah,
So they are numerical identities and qualitative identities. Nonetheless, there are some people who take the position that if you change a plaque or a plaque in or a piece of wood in a
yeah,
ship, then you
yeah.
have changed the ship completely. So there is
Uh,
also disagreement within the discussion, or the ship of thesis. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, yeah,
And this is why this individual just laying it out. And and a lot of people who are not familiar with these things will be confused, and at the end of the day, they'll just say, "Oh, just a social construct,"
yeah,
and that's it, because that's what this person, this author of this video, is trying to basically promote or
yeah,
propagate.
yeah,
So we would take the stance and say, no, the ship of thesis, as Muslims, for example, the ship of thesis, there's something intrinsical, and
yeah,
it belongs to Thesis himself. and one can say it's something metaphysical. It's something like the soul, like the soul. I'm the soul, and this body belongs to the soul. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if my arm is off, I don't change. If someone cuts my arm, I'm still
You're
Muhammad or
still more
Moel.
like if someone cuts off your arm, you're just Moel without arm.
Yeah, without arm, exactly. Yeah. So this individual is trying to say basically that uh, that that basically all of these don't matter. All of these disagreements don't matter. Just our thoughts being imposed
Yeah.
on the physical, on the on nature.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, because this individual, and I just want to lay out this foundation before we continue on with the video, if you don't
Yeah.
mind.
Sure.
This individual is trying to basically, if when you listen more to the individual, the author of the video,
Yeah.
they basically want they seem to come off as naturalistic or like philosophical naturalists, and through the physical processes that they mentioned, especially in terms of mechanics.
Yeah.
So, and that will equivocate mechanical objects with the biology, the human being, but we're not robots. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that being said, basically, we don't value ourselves we don't value ourselves as mere objects. We're more than that.
Yeah. That's a good. So yeah, we should continue. I have some.
Go ahead. Yeah.
No, 3:31. Okay.
Position would think about. For now, though, you understand this distinction between an object and its properties. And there's different kinds of properties too. Some we would say are intrinsic. That means you can't really separate the object from the property. It's an intrinsic property of triangles that they have three sides. If you take that away, it's not a triangle anymore. Others we would say are relational. This car has the property being next to me. But if I move, then it doesn't have that property anymore because it depends on my location. If this car was my favorite.
Okay, so I think she is being a little deceptive here. Like, for example, she only says like there's like two things, which is like a black and white fallacy. I mean, like there can be a third option, which is that something that cannot be, that where properties cannot be taken away, at least to the as far as we know. Like, for example, you cannot change DNA or chromosomes. So, and there are
Yes.
certain things. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, if you don't mind me, just cutting you off. There is something called natural kinds in philosophy, and natural kinds. A friend of mine was telling me about them. Natural kinds are pretty much, in a nutshell. I'll give an analogy at the end, but let me just say what they are. Natural kinds are pretty much are groups or type of objects that occur naturally in the world. They exist independent of our choice to classify or study them. We might say that scientific realism is successful if the way that science classifies objects maps onto the naturally occurring kinds in the world. So pretty much this type of position, natural kinds, it deals with metaphysics ontologically, it deals with the philosophy of science, it deals with semantics. But here's the analogy just to drive the point home because I don't want to get too deep into it. For example, there is a philosopher by the name of Hillary something. 1 second, just give me a second.
Sure.
There's a philosopher by the name of Hillary Putnam. Okay.
Putnam. Yeah, I've heard of
Putnam.
her. I
Yeah.
actually quoted her in my previous video.
Okay. I think it's a male, but it doesn't matter. Anyway, but it doesn't matter. Let's just get to the point of what he's saying.
Yeah.
He's saying basically that because this individual, the author Abigail, she likes to give she equivocates a lot by making the analogy of a second Earth. So Earth number 1, Earth number 2. This author gives the analogy of Earth number 1 and Earth number 2. So if Earth number 1, that is our Earth, for example, has H2O, water. And another Earth has basically XYZ instead of H2O. But they call this element water. So it doesn't matter because What does that mean? Is that basically the author, the philosopher who takes that position disagrees with them, that you can call it whatever you want,
Yeah.
but natural kinds still exist. You get what I'm saying? So you
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
call it a male, you can call it a female, you can call it a water, you can call it you can call a horse a donkey. But a horse in Earth number one is going to still be a horse in
Yeah.
Earth number two, and
Yeah.
you can define it whatever you want, but natural kinds exist nonetheless. So this means if you want to identify as a female, if you want to identify as a female, your body's a male in
Yeah.
Earth number one.
Yeah.
So it's not a social construct. It actually is rooted, like you said, in biology. You
Yeah.
follow what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, like, and there's a saying which is like, if you like take a monkey and send it to space, it's still gonna be a monkey.
Yeah. And one last thing also, natural kinds, by the way, in chemistry, are in such discipline, are the most obvious,
Yeah.
because the table of elements.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're not going to say this is not this. Think about it for a second. We have gold, we have silver. The moment you exchange these two, you lose a lot of money. You know. But then one can also say, okay, we're imposing the value on it socially.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, this is silver and this is gold, and we
Yeah.
impose the value on it socially. Why? Because gold is more precious, because it's more sacred, if you can say, or it doesn't. It's not as an abundant as the silver. So this is how you do things at the end of the
Yeah.
day, just like platinum and diamond and so on.
Yeah, another thing is that even if like someone was to come along and look at a gold and they call it by something else, they still have similar or the same idea about that thing, right? Because it has an intrinsic property that cannot be changed.
Yes, that's what
So
natural kinds are. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So yeah, let's continue.
We would say that it has the property being my favorite, which is not only relational, but depends on my feelings rather than my location. And now here's the $1,000,000 question. What kind of property are things like being a woman, being a man, being black, white, gay, straight, whatever?
Okay,
Are
okay.
they
So she basically kind of like uses a slippery slope fallacy. She basically goes to
What
like
kind of fallacy?
slippery slope.
Yeah, yeah.
So basically, can you just go
Sorry,
back?
man.
Like, yeah, go back.
Go
It's
ahead. Go ahead.
just-
No, no. Go ahead. Go ahead.
What kind of property are things like being a woman?
Okay, so first she starts with like woman, right? And then
Yes,
look where she goes.
Being a man,
Okay,
being black, white, gay, straight, whatever.
black, white, then jump straight to gay.
As if it's the equivalent. This is a fallacy of equivocation, man. She commits a lot of fallacies of equivocation in her video, especially when she makes analogies, comparisons.
Yeah,
As soon as when you watch someone trying to make comparisons, if the comparisons do not match, then the person is equivocating.
yeah, yeah. So basically, she's using like a slippery slope. Basically, she jumps straight to like from like, for example, someone being black is not something they can change, but being gay is something that is being debated
Yeah.
right now. So like, how
Yeah,
can you like compare the
genetically, you
two?
cannot even change if you're black, because we can trace the DNA all the way back to the sub-Saharan African, for example,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
the Aboriginals in Australia. But
Yeah,
let
yeah.
me give an analogy in case someone wants to jump the gun and be silly. Michael Jackson, for example, okay, he's not black now. His skin is white, but his
Yeah.
DNA is black. Because if he had children with a black woman or a white woman, his children
Yeah.
will either come out black or mixed.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, by the way, brother J sends apologies. Basically, his internet died, so sadly, he won't be able to join us. But he
That's
sent
okay.
his sincere apologies. So, inshallah, maybe we'll have him another time.
Inshallah.
So, yeah, let's continue.
Are they intrinsic? Are they relational? Are they something else? What do they depend on? They are pretty important. I guarantee that properties like that have shaped your entire life. They've sure as hell shaped mine. So,
They depend on something that cannot be changed, like DNA. Like, what are you gonna do? Change DNA? I
No,
don't
you
get
can't.
it. Like,
Yeah. even in bodybuilding,
yeah,
you basically you can take all the high tech scientific testosterone boosters and all this stuff all you want,
Yeah.
but it all depends on your genetics. Because some people, if you bring someone who's big and another person who's a big two big guys, and you
Yeah.
inject them with testosterone boosters and all this stuff,
Yeah.
steroids and all this stuff,
Yeah. Yeah.
it doesn't matter. It depends on their genetics how this
Yeah.
chemical reaction mixes with them, and their amount of time working at the gym as well, which
Yeah.
a lot of factors will be in play. But you can't change the genetics at the end of the day. You
Yeah.
can't really you can alter them, but it depends on the genetics how the outcome is going to be, and
Yeah.
who's going to basically look better than the other and win
Yeah.
the championship.
Yeah. Yeah. So, by the way, did you watch the discussion between Brother Muhammad Hijab and like this transgender? I
Yeah,
think they had
yeah,
a
I watched it a long time ago.
yeah. Yeah. So basically, he basically made the argument too, which is that it's basically down to chromosome. Like, what are you gonna do about the chromosome? Like, you
Yeah,
can't change that.
you can't
Like,
change it. No, no.
so yeah. Let's continue.
What the heck are they? In offering my theory of social categories, the aim is to reveal the cogs and belts and arrangements of parts in machines that often are oppressive. To start solving this puzzle, we can do something that philosophers love. And if you enjoy this, then you should absolutely study metaphysics, because this is like half of it. Imagine another Earth called Earth 2. And on Earth 2, they have all the same ideas we do about sex and race and gender, all those same categories, but they also have an extra one called Schmite. Schmite is very simple. There's two kinds of people on Earth 2. Big
Yeah. So basically, she's going on to this nonsense about smite. I mean, like,
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
I
Sorry,
mean,
man.
like, first of all, like, this is a different argument, but she will make this. So, like, I think I should play it a little bit, then make a comment.
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
and minis. Bigs is any adult over
This is pretty stupid, by the way, but let's continue.
5 feet tall, and minis is anyone under. And let's say that whether you're a big or a mini really affects your life on Earth too. Like if you're a big, you can get a better job, you can get a nicer house, you're allowed to marry whoever you like. If you're a mini,
Okay, fine. Like, how's that relevant to like what we're discussing, right? This
Yeah,
is like
this-
a red herring.
It's a red herring. It's again fallacy of equivocation. Her analogies are superfluous, bro. They're futile. They're nonsense. And I wanted
Hold
to
on.
tell you.
I think I have a animation of the red herring fallacy. Let me just show it.
Yeah, it's a good red herring, man. I've actually ate a herring before, smoked herring. They're salty. They're salty, bro. Anyways, yeah, this individual basically. Well, listen, the height thing, yeah, it is rooted in biology without a doubt, and through evolution, there is a professor. I forgot his name, but he talked about the pygmies.
Yeah.
The pygmies of the Congo are short, and this is actually a evolutionary trait that helps them in survival. Okay, so for example, the reason the pygmies are short because they go uphill when they walk, and going uphill can actually, if you're tall, it will be difficult. You can actually trample and fall. You will lose your balance, and they have developed calf muscles in the leg that allows them to climb up the slope, the steep slope.
Yeah.
That being said, yes, height has an evolutionary advantage as well, whether it's tall or short. So this analogy, since she's not predicating it on anything that is based on survival, that actually helps in surviving. It just she's predicating on something that people came up with that is shallow, like what is cool. And she comes off with this analogy later on, for example, in high school and middle school, or elementary school, kids have their prejudices and preconceptions. So, oh, you're not cool, bro. But then you ask him why, and you can ask him why while you're being chill and being calm. Why am I not cool? And then even though you're being cool at the moment because you're calm, because that's what the definition of cool is. We're not going to come with preconceptions and try to impose something that doesn't exist based on a shallow perspective.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's what this person has been doing the whole time in this video. They come off trying to act cool with their hat and their mechanic shop and their theme, because
Yeah.
that's their preconception of what cool is. They're shallow
Yeah.
individuals, but they're
Right.
trying to mix in philosophy, but rather it's not philosophy, it's an antipathy towards wisdom, it's misosophy.
Uh,
You get, it is misosophy at the end of the day. Why is this individual dressed like this? To appeal to the audience,
yeah.
to appeal to the audience and beguile them and deceive them. Because in high school and in middle school, again, I have to repeat, the term cool lost its meaning. You have to
Yeah.
look like this to be cool
Yeah. I
in
mean,
high
like
school.
it's also a very arbitrary term. Like, how is that relevant to, like, gender that is based on DNA? Like, I mean,
Yeah, height. It's arbitrary. It's the analogy she gave is equivocate. She's equivocating. It has no relevance whatsoever. She's using philosophical jargon and philosophical ways of arguing
yeah.
to just act like blasé, or act like she knows what she's talking about.
Yeah. 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 It's okay. Let's play a little bit, and I'll make some commentaries here.
Life is hard. Suppose we were to meet the people of Earth too, and we said, Schmite is just a social construct. Being a big or being a mini, those are clearly relational properties. They depend on how other people feel about them.
By the way, this is actually a bad argument. Like, if like Earth two people actually made this argument, this is a bad argument, because you're trying to attack a moral argument, but she's not making a moral argument. Like, she's making, like,
She's not.
she's
Yeah.
confusing. She's confusing
She's
these two.
confusing, yeah, because like I said, it's not predicated on uh, anything that is realistic. Anything. It's not predicated on evolutionary survival. It's not
Yeah.
predicated on morality. It's just predicated on something arbitrary with no,
Biology. Yeah.
not even but yeah, biology. But it's not. She's not given the reason why. The reason is predicated. The reason of the height that she gave. It's not predicated on nothing but just the physical structure of the individual, the physiology, the biology, but the reason behind it socially is not been given, or even from a Darwinian perspective, it's not been given. Why is it like this? There's no reason. There is no survival in it, and there is no what do you call it? Ethics
Benefit.
in it.
Yeah,
Benefit. There's no. It's not conducive. But if you're gonna talk about marriage, okay,
Yeah,
we can discuss marriage. Marriage leads to procreating. Even from an evolutionary stance, we would be designed as machines or vehicles that basically pass on our genetics. So marriage is rooted in biology, and it has a purpose.
Purpose. Yeah.
And the purpose is to procreate and pass on the genes. Same with sex. Or one can go as far as an extreme position as a rape, because people talk about rape in evolutionary biology. That's passing on the gene. But the height analogy that she gave is arbitrary and has no foundation whatsoever.
Yeah, so basically she is making like a false equivalence fallacy. She's trying to equivocate two different arguments. Like, for example, even if we like said that, like, this argument was fair, and said that this is okay, fair enough. These mini and bigs, okay, they are biologically rooted, no problem, and they are not socially no, they're not social construct. But just because it's not social construct doesn't mean it's good, right? So basically, she's making a moral argument now, but before she made a kind of like a what do we call it? A biological argument, right? So she said that. So basically, she's trying to say that, oh, look, here they're making prejudices based on biology, and you're doing the same thing to us in the real world. Okay, but the comparison doesn't make
I
any
got
sense.
what you mean. Yeah, she's basically she's equivocating and muddying the water with all these philosophical jargon and analogies, and you don't even know. The thing is, when I watched this video from the beginning, I don't know where she's getting at. Okay, what's your point? I wanted to ask, what's your point? You go towards the end of the video, and then it clicks. Okay, this person just muddying the water with a lot of nonsense, equivocations and fallacies, and then at the end they just want to say it's all a social construct. Like I said in the beginning of the video, we're imposing our definitions on biological and natural kinds.
So basically, even if we were like the thing that is common in both cases, okay, fair enough, they're both based on biology. But just because they're both based on biology doesn't mean they're good. Like, that's not the argument we're making. Like, for example, if you want to say something is good or bad, we go to the Quran and the Sunnah, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Or you go to moral philosophy. That is a different
Mathematics.
argument.
Yes, yes, yes. Yeah,
That is not
you're
what.
just saying it's just people felt that way. Like with
Yeah,
the arbitrary analogy of cool, they felt that cool is that way, you know. But cool
yeah,
has a definition nonetheless, and with in semantics as well, linguistically. Because let's be frank, even in medieval time or ancient time, the
yeah,
Arabs had dictions that used the terms that were not Arabic, but the
yeah,
Arabs understood it in a certain way. For
yeah,
example, and we've talked about this you and I before, but I'll
yeah,
mention it
yeah,
nonetheless. The term Jahannam in the Quran means hell,
yeah,
but Jahannam, when Antara, who's a poet, used it at his time, it
yeah,
meant a well,
yeah,
a well of water.
yeah,
Until later on, the context and the meaning and the way people basically
yeah,
um define things, it becomes the norm. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah, yeah,
But nonetheless, things have to be rooted in something. Jahannam is an abstract idea.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying? Like the term cool. Cool
yeah,
means a bit chilly, if I'm not
yeah,
mistaken. It means to be a bit chilly, a bit cold.
yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah,
cool. But when you use it in a context, it means to be calm, composed,
yeah,
as opposed to apprehensive.
yeah, yeah,
So this individual is trying to say no, but in middle school, in elementary school, high school, when we use the term cool, it's arbitrary, has no context. It can be predicated in someone's music genre. If someone
yeah, yeah.
listens to rap music, is cool. But
Oh,
okay, someone is listening to rock music, he's not cool. It doesn't know. But this is just silly. It's a silly
yeah,
analogy because this is just with kids who have their presumptions and biases. But
yeah,
when we as an adult, as an intellectual species, we
yeah,
have to basically assess things more profound and more. We have to be more articulate with things,
yeah, yeah,
and so on and so forth.
yeah. So yeah, let's continue. We have a comment here. Brother Joe said, "Mo, I think maybe he knows you, Prophet of John."
Prophet of John. I think I know him. Yeah,
Yeah,
just
yeah.
not clicking at the moment, but yeah, I've read his name plenty times. Yeah, Prophet of
Okay,
John.
okay. Let's continue.
They might say, no, it's not. It's not about feelings. It's objectively observable.
Yeah, it's
Look,
Ray,
I have a
Ray
tape
Bear.
measure. I can tell whether someone is a big or a mini. Reaching tall things on my shelf is not a f***ing social construct. But we might come back and say, okay, yeah, you can measure somebody's height. Nobody's denying that. But what we're driving at is, why do you care? Why?
No, no,
Why
you
do
see,
you
that's
care?
the
It's not an
equivocation.
argument. Why
That's
do
the
you care?
equivocation. That's what she's trying to get at. She's trying to say, why do you care if I become transgender? Why do you care if I change my sex?
Yeah,
Well, now we can discuss it ethically. We can
yeah,
discuss it from
yeah. That's a moral
a
argument,
moral
ethical
argument. We
argument.
can also
Yeah,
discuss it socially. Is it conducive? Is it beneficial?
yeah,
Does it cause functional? Like, is it dysfunction or
yeah,
functional?
yeah,
And so on and so forth. This is
yeah,
where the discussion can lead to from that stems from a biological perspective.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. So basically, she's trying to make this analogy, and like I said before, like even if like they were like both cases biologically rooted, that is not, that argument is different. All we're saying is that it's not a social construct. Right? I mean, gender is still a social construct. It's not still not biologically rooted because it's in your DNA. It's in the chromosomes.
Yes,
So
yes.
that's not something that can be changed. That's not something that can be argued. Okay. Now, whether that is good or bad, right? That's something you can argue. That's something you can say, okay, this is bad because of this reason, or this is good because this reason, right?
Yeah, and
But
by the way, most since we're discussing from a moral perspective,
yeah,
from what I've heard, okay, I don't have the stats on me, but most of the people who went through sex change,
yeah,
they got depressed and to the point of suicide. Matter of fact,
yeah, I've
so
heard that too.
yeah, so it's not beneficial even for the individual himself, not just society.
Yeah,
Because imagine someone like this comes and wants to get married eventually. Who are
yeah,
they going to marry? Someone who's transgender like them, or someone who's straight like me? This would cause a lot of problems,
yeah,
especially if you come off with false pretenses and lies and and dishonesty.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing. Like, she's basically that is basically what she's trying to get at. She's not being clear. She's being very vague. But that is what she's trying to get at. She's
Yeah.
basically saying that, look, I mean, why do you care about this, right? And I mean, like, look,
Why
we
does
can argue.
why does he or she care about which sex she is?
Yeah,
I mean, if biology says you're a male, if biology
yeah,
says you were because the author has I don't know what to call him, but the author has previous videos where the author is actually a male.
yeah,
Okay, so if you're a male, okay, and I'm not talking about a male man, I'm talking about men. If you're a male, okay, then now you're a female.
yeah,
Why do you care? Why couldn't you just stick to what you had from day one?
yeah,
Why do you care?
yeah,
Oh no, you causing confusion. You're causing dishonesty. You're being dishonest to yourself. One can say that, and I'm gonna say
yeah,
how it is.
yeah. I mean, like, that's the thing. I mean, like I said, like, I mean, you can change a lot of different things, but you cannot change like DNA. That's just
Yeah, because the ship of Thesis is still belongs to Thesis until he signs off the ownership to someone else, and then
yeah,
because if I have a Benz or I have a vehicle,
yeah,
and I take the vehicle and I change the vehicle engine, I change the vehicle's engine to a Toyota, for example. It's no longer a Benz per se, but it still belongs to Moel. It's still the vehicle of Mo. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
yeah,
Now one can say, okay, because the engine is what defines the vehicle at the end of the day. But
yeah,
let's just say if I change a tire, it's
yeah,
still a Benz. You know
yeah.
what I'm saying? It's
Okay, so
still
yeah, so I think we have like a Christian troll here. Maybe we can let him call our show later on. He wants to challenge the whole Aisha thing.
oh no. Listen, if it has nothing to do with the video, let's not discuss
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
It
yeah,
has
yeah,
to do with the video because I'm not gonna
yeah,
waste my time, man.
yeah. Sure, sure. Let's continue.
Have you constructed your social systems around this feature? Maybe you've got a good reason for it, but on Earth 1, we don't do that. We have the property being tall, but we don't have the property being a big or being a mini. So you guys must have invented them. And all the Earth 2 people will be like, you guys are weird. Meanwhile, the people of Earth 0 are looking at us going, whoa, what's all this stuff about race and sex? I mean, we understand skin color and reproductive organs. Yeah, we're not erasing anybody's biology or anything like that, but you guys divided your whole population and you based your whole society around this?
Okay, hold
Why?
on, hold
And
on.
maybe we
Okay. Yeah,
Of course, we have to divide our society not based on race, not based on race, because we're not against interrogation or
yeah,
we're against segregation, but nonetheless, we divided our society based on sex because sex is what distinguishes between man and woman.
yeah,
You know what I mean? And
yeah,
sex is also biologically rooted, and it's based on evolution, survival.
yeah,
So what else do you want? I mean, this is how this reality is. Unless you live on Mars or you live somewhere else, a figment of your own imagination, assuming you're a crocodile or something. I don't know.
yeah, yeah. And like, so basically, she's like ignoring, like, throwing the entire evolutionary psychology, evolutionary history, like these are stuff that they argue for. By the way, it is themselves like argue for, like, this kind of things, and they're throwing it out the window. I mean, yeah. Let's just continue.
Yeah, it
say,
is.
well,
It is
it's even
psychological at the end of the day. It's a
Yeah,
psychological issue. It was deemed a mental illness back in the 70s or and the 60s, and now they just
yeah,
because humans are right. They don't want to infringe on humans' right. Well, guess what? Humans' right is the social construct.
yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah. Actually, yeah.
Human rights are nonsense upon stilts. I'm going to throw these slogans at her.
Yeah. So basically, she's kind of like, again, like uses this analogy, like false analogy, but regardless, let's continue.
evolutionary psychology, you know? On Earth 1, some of us can carry children, some of us can't. So we evolve different societal
Yeah, that's a
roles.
good. She basically refutes herself here. Yeah, that's a good explanation.
What you said, I missed it. We evolved socially.
Why? And maybe we'd say, well, it's evolutionary psychology.
Okay.
You know, on Earth One, some of us can carry children, some of us can't. So we
Yeah,
evolve.
that's how we survive. Like that's not like some small thing. That's very important.
Yes.
That's a pretty good reason to divide your society based on
Yeah,
that.
you see, the reason this individual is trying to give you both ends of the spectrum.
Yeah.
The reason they're doing that is to tell you that they're neutral. That hey, look, we got this and we got that. We can pick, we can choose.
Yeah,
Woman choice, feminism, all this nonsense. To be
Yeah.
frank with you, it's all choice. Yeah,
Yeah.
well, you have free will without a doubt, but your choice can have repercussions and consequences.
yeah,
And look at the consequences. If you don't have the insight, if you can't discern, you won't
Yeah.
be able to. You might actually end up being in a dead end, and
Yeah.
that's why a lot of people end up when they come to self actualization and realize what the hell have they done.
yeah. By the way, I want to talk to like Joshua Benjamin. He's
Okay.
like a Christian troll. By the way, I blocked you because you were saying some nonsense about the Prophet Sallallahu. If you want to know about his marriage with Aisha, Radhana, I made an hour-long video. Go check it out, and don't waste your time here.
And these people still exist on the net. Move on, man. Come on, get a life.
They do, sadly. But regardless, let's continue.
different societal roles, and we make that distinction. Carrying and birthing a child is not a f***ing social construct. And they might go, okay, yeah, but what about Mother's Day cards? I mean, are you seriously
You
telling
see-
me that you evolved
You
to
see
buy...
this individual again. They like to go on the extreme side of things. That's a social construct. Mother's Day.
Yeah.
But I mean, who really celebrates it? People in it's a white Kipling type of thing. Kipling syndrome, white man's burden, and it stems from Europe, most likely. It stems from Europe, and then it was passed on to the rest of the nations.
Yeah.
Okay, we don't celebrate Mother's Day. What the hell is that? You know, like
I mean, even if we were like to say that, okay, fair enough, like that's like something that people do,
Yeah.
and like I mean that is based on biology. So you could say, okay, there's a reason for it. Like if you want to show like your love to someone who carried you for a long period of time, you can do that. Like that is not like some kind of arbitrary thing. Like for example,
Mother's
your
Day
mother
should
is
be
still your
every day.
mother.
if
yeah.
anything, you know.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's everyone feels that. Like that's not arbitrary. That is like even if you like live in a society where they're nothing like the West or nothing like they didn't see civilization, they still recognize their mother, right? They still thank their
Yeah,
mother. It is
everyone has to have
universal.
a universal. Everyone has to have a mom at the end of the day, or else they
Yeah.
wouldn't be here.
Yeah, yeah.
Even
So
if it's
that-
artificial insemination,
Yeah.
you still that egg and that the sperm came from people.
yeah,
It's not something that came out of nothing.
yeah, yeah. So this is universal. So you cannot say this is like a social construct. Like even that's like a bad argument, you know. So yeah, let's continue.
each other those, get out of town. There's definitely some aspects of being a mother that you've invented. I mean, there's nature, you've got your natural...
How do you invent like being a mother?
Yeah, see, this is the problem. When I mention natural kinds, this individual assumes that we impose definitions on on nature. So this cup, for example, just a crude analogy, this cup we impose the definition on it. You know, or because some people will say chairs do not actually exist; they're artificial. And this cup is artificial. So if I go, let's go with a better analogy, like a rock. A rock
Yeah.
actually exists in nature. We didn't invent a rock. Just like a mother. We didn't invent a mom. I didn't come out of nowhere and just invented a mom.
Yeah,
So this individual doesn't know what they're talking about, and they're talking out of the side of their neck. You know what I'm saying? And that's it.
I mean, he does have some beard, by the way. He shaved it.
The 5 o'clock shadow. Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna roast him now, eh? Let's move on. Yeah, let's move on.
properties, yeah. But then you guys, you've added a whole bunch of stuff on top of that. You're doing augmented reality, like projecting extra properties onto the world. On Earth Zero, we don't have any of that. We've just got the natural properties, no additives. And then suddenly, In come the people from Earth -1. And they're like, whoa, hold on there. What's all this stuff about natural properties? The only reason that the people of Earth 2 bother to measure height, the only reason they have a concept of height, is because they care about schmite. The act of measuring someone's height isn't a neutral thing that happens before they get assigned big or mini.
Yeah, but we
When you
also
measure
need
something, you're already.
Yeah.
we also need a metric system.
Yeah.
We
Okay.
need
So
a we need
basically,
yeah,
yeah.
go ahead.
So basically, here she's committing the begging the question fallacy. I mean,
Yes.
how does she know that people of Earth 2 decided to come up with this idea, then imposed it on like a thing, rather than that thing itself has certain properties based on that we got the idea? You know what I mean? Like, how does she know that? She just assumes it that that's what's happening, and that makes the argument. So basically, this is like a circular reasoning.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really sure why. If she wants to say, okay, this is just a social construct that we imposed on reality, but reality is measured. And this is how we do things in science. We
Yeah,
have
yeah,
to measure things.
yeah,
Okay, we have to evaluate things, but we're just going to leave it as is. Okay, if you're 6'2", 6'3",
yeah,
okay, that's fine. That's just your height. But
yeah,
when does the height really matter?
yeah,
On a social societally or on a socially,
yeah,
it can matter through artificial reasoning or shallow reasoning. It's
yeah,
because one time when I was in this facility, they said you have a more chance of being hired at a workplace if you're above 6 foot
yeah,
than if you're like a short individual. They said that, but that's really shallow because we have to value the individual based on their qualification. So it's the
yeah,
same thing as saying black and white as well. Oh, you're most likely to be hired if you're black or white or brown, blah blah blah. This is really shallow. The only time height should be put into consideration, in my humble opinion, is in basketball. That's it.
yeah,
The
yeah,
only time height should be put in consideration is in basketball. If you're a center, you should be at least 7 feet.
yeah,
Okay. If you're a power forward, okay, 10, 6'9". If you're a small forward, maybe 6'8". Shooting guard 6'6", 6'5",
yeah,
and then a point guard 6'3",
yeah,
6'2", or even
yeah,
five five
yeah.
five.
Yeah. By the way, she's not even saying that. Like, for example,
Yeah.
they're not even saying that. Like, no one is saying that a tall person is not tall. Like, no one is saying that. Like, none of these Earth 2, Earth 3 people are saying that. Okay, so, but she is saying that. She's saying that gender itself or gender identity itself is like some arbitrary thing, which is
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
ridiculous. So her analogy doesn't work. Again, she's using like a false analogy. It
Yeah,
does not establish her argument.
it's an equivocation. Yeah, it's an equivocation. It has nothing to do with the discussion at hand.
Yeah, yeah. And yeah. So yeah, let's continue.
Already assuming that there is something there worth measuring. So these supposedly objective natural properties of yours are also social constructs. It's not augmented reality.
What's she even saying? Like, this is the same as saying like diseases are social construct. I mean, you might as well say that, right? If diseases are social construct,
Yes, yes.
like everything is a social construct. Then I mean, every like, so this is ridiculous. I
You
mean,
know
like,
what? If
yeah,
someone goes through that path of saying everything is just a social construct and
yeah,
everything is just imposed on nature,
yeah,
we run into the problem of not knowing how to define things eventually, especially if we go through her line of thinking.
yeah,
Because if we go through her line of thinking and say, and we cannot distinguish between a male and a female
yeah,
biologically and physiologically,
mhm,
then we run into the problem eventually of epistemic, and that's the extreme end of the spectrum. Since she likes to go from one end of the spectrum to another, the extreme end of the spectrum is epistemic nihilism, because then we won't know the meaning of anything. We just assume.
yeah,
We just assume, and this assumption is not based on first principles. Matter of fact, axioms are gone out of the window.
yeah, yeah. Those are social construct as well. Math is a social construct.
Yeah. So yeah, the extreme side of things will be epistemic nihilism. Even
Logic is a social construct.
even epistemic
Philosophy
nihilism.
is a social construct.
Exactly, yeah, like logical nihilism
Yeah.
or epistemic nihilism.
Yeah.
They themselves, when we conclude with nihilism itself, it shoots itself in the foot. It undermines
Yeah.
itself because we
Yeah.
don't even know if it's epistemic nihilism or logical nihilism. We don't know anything.
Yeah. Yeah. So how do you know what she's saying is even true, right? I mean, if it's just a social construct, like we can say we can accept it as true, or we can accept it as false. Like it's just choosing an ice cream, like flavor of an ice cream.
Yeah,
So yeah,
exactly.
yeah, and and also this is so easily disprovable. By the way, this whole idea, like for example, take any woman, take them to a African country or any kind of kind of a village somewhere where people haven't met each other or don't know each other.
Yes.
And do you think anyone will recognize that woman as like some kind of dog?
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, man. I mean, don't get me wrong. This is there's a lot of people, and I don't want to disparage the individual because we've been kind of
Yeah.
roasting, but nonetheless, there are people nowadays that come out as dogs and cats and lions
Yeah, yeah,
and tigers.
other kin. They're called other kin.
Other kin. Okay,
Yeah.
they're a part of the LGBT or the LGBT shun them.
No, no, they're completely different.
Oh, so even the LGBT are prejudiced. They shun people.
Yeah. Yeah, this is hilarious. Yeah. Okay, so let's continue.
Reality, it's full VR, son. On Earth -1, we don't have any of that. We're all just vibing. Presumably, life on those other Earths would look a little bit different.
No, it wouldn't. That's the thing. Like no one would say that a tall person is a short person. All right. They're all recognizing like there are certain properties that are the same. I mean, like you're the one who's saying that like these properties are not what they seem. Right. So
Yeah,
they're not even making your argument.
yeah. Not the analogy I gave with the philosopher I mentioned with natural kinds.
Yeah.
H2O is water, and if they want to
Yeah.
classify something else as water,
Yeah.
then that's fine. They can classify it as water, but the physical stuff
Yeah.
is you cannot change it. It
Yeah.
is what it is
I
at the
mean,
end of the day.
even if they classify it as like something different, it's still similar ideas, right?
Yeah, like
They're just calling water by something else.
like for example, we have language on this planet.
Yeah,
On
yeah,
this planet, we have language. So in English, water is water.
yeah.
In Arabic, it's mat.
Yeah.
In
And
French, it's
in
le.
Bengali, it's pani pani. In
What is it?
Bengali, we call it pani.
Funny.
Pani pani
Funny.
means
Okay.
water.
Water.
Yeah.
Okay. So now we have different terms, but for the same thing.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? So that doesn't mean that we have actually changed anything. It is what it is at the end of the day. And
Yeah,
the same with the analogy, even if we have different components,
Yeah.
but you want to call them, even if you want to call them water, then that component is not the same as H2O. So
Yeah.
we would disagree and say, no, natural kinds exist.
Yeah.
So stop changing your natural kinds, please.
Yeah. Let's continue.
If you were walking around Earth too, you'd see signs with like bigs only and stuff, because social constructs shape our environment. Suppose we took a whole city of people here on Earth 1 and we erased their memories so they didn't know about sex and race. Would they reinvent those categories when they saw their environment? Would they look at public toilets and go, oh, hey, there's two different spaces here?
Well,
But
how
in
many
our home,
spaces do you
we've
want?
only got one.
How many toilet? You want one toilet for everyone to go into? Men, women, children, and intermingle in one toilet? Come
Yeah,
on,
that's-
use your common sense.
He or she is committing like faulty comparison fallacy. I mean, like in your home, you live with your family, right?
Yes.
So, like, how's that the same as like having being with like outsiders?
Yeah, and when you're at home, by the way, yeah, exactly. You're not with people who are strangers. Even
Yeah.
if you have guests coming in, they're not considered strangers because not someone doesn't come from the street and knocks on my door is like, bro, can I use your toilet? I'll be like, no, go piss in the corner. You know, I don't know you. You know what I'm saying? But if someone, also the toilet at home is constructed for one person at a time. So
Yeah.
it's not like me and everyone, my kids and my mom, everyone goes in the same toilet. No, it's only one toilet.
Yeah.
Unless we're washing our hands or something, okay, that's fine, no problem.
Yeah.
But the public toilet, come on, man, I don't have to explain this. This is nonsense. This
Yeah.
person is
When they saw their environment, would they look at public toilets and go, "Oh, hey, there's two different spaces here. We all live on the bad side of town where the houses aren't as nice."
You see the blasé
Wow.
attitude?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
blasé attitude, the way, listen, so people have to study psychology. The way people present themselves with a demeanor can come off as intellectual, can come off as smart. I mean, bro, I just woke up. I
Prophet
don't
of
care. I
John
just woke
says
up with
that-
my shirt.
Yeah.
But look at them. They have to come up with all this theme and put all this work just to beguile the lay people.
Yeah. 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 Prophet of John says that I will not identify as a bobcat.
Yo, man, bobcats are cool, man. She's gonna talk about coolness in a bit.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
We all live on the bad side of town where the houses aren't as nice. Why?
Okay, so here she's making like a moral argument against a biological argument, right? A scientific argument, more like. So
Yeah.
the two arguments are not the same. Like, we're
Yeah.
not saying that just because something is based on biology or some type of intrinsic property, that means it's good. We're just saying that it's not what you're saying it is. Like, you're saying it's a social construct, we're saying it's not. That's it.
That's it. Yeah,
Now,
exactly.
If you want to bring like a moral argument, that's a different area. That's a
Exactly.
different area now.
Exactly. Yeah, because also if you study and I just want to make a caveat. If you study the philosophy of science, science is amoral. It doesn't deal with morality. You
Yeah.
need to delve into philosophy and metaethics. And
Yeah.
by the way, if y'all haven't noticed, the audience and anyone who's going to watch this later on, the neo-atheists used to come off with the scientism type of narrative. Okay,
Yeah.
even when it comes to morality, they used to talk science, because of Sam Harris and Hitchens and the Four Horsemen. Now we see these videos on social media emerging with these people talking philosophy as if they're some type of Aristotle or Plato or Immanuel Kant, talking like they're some type of big shots. But at the end of the day, just nonsense.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing. Like, I mean, and it's just nonsense. But regardless, let's continue.
Sorry, man, if I.
Our social construct.
Yeah. No problem. No problem. So yeah, she's basically mixing like a moral argument with like a scientific argument. It just doesn't make sense.
Constructs have shaped our environment, which in turn reinforce our social constructs.
Also, this, like, she says that, like, this is like we're already projecting onto things. Where's her evidence for this? Like, I mean, like I said, we can easily disprove this. We can take these like things that have intrinsic properties anywhere, and they will still recognize it as that. Like, for example, take a cat, right? You can name a cat like different names, but no one's gonna say a cat is a dog.
Exactly.
Like, everyone on planet Earth is gonna say a cat is a cat, or they're gonna call it by something else, identify it as something else, but still a cat. Same thing with the gender. Like, a woman is still a woman.
Even if they want to convolute things a bit, we have species that mix breeds and whatnot. Then we give them a name.
Yeah.
There's a bit of this. What is it?
Brother Mohammed always says we should blood the woman. She's not a woman, bro.
It's a man. It's a man beguiling people and trying to basically deceive him as a woman. But it's not a woman. He's a man in a different video. You can check out his channel.
Yeah.
We're not picking on him, by the way. That's not my intentions. That's not our intentions. It's to attack his argument. But at the same time, because his argument is predicated on who he is and who he wants to be, we have to also pick that apart as well. Hey, you froze, eh? Fahad?
Yeah, I think I'm back.
Okay.
See me?
Yes, now it's good.
Okay. All right, let's continue.
I think that was an episode of Star Trek, actually. So we've identified this whole layer of reality, which really affects our lives, but which we seem to be just inventing, at least to some extent. So
No, we're not.
what is going on?
Like, who is inventing DNA? What is she saying?
Yeah, it's just vague, very vague
She's saying
individual.
she's saying that we're inventing chromosomes. Like, are you serious? Like, on what planet? Like, they're gonna say a
Yeah,
chromosome is not a chromosome. Like,
yeah. Like I said, I'll have to repeat again in case someone just popped in. This individual assumes through biases and prejudices, it's a presumption that basically we impose our own feelings and thoughts on natural kinds, on things that
yeah,
exist in reality. So I can
yeah,
just identify something based on my own temptations, the
yeah,
temptation of my own ego. As the
yeah,
Quran says, بِمَا تَهْوَى أَنفُسَهُمْ, by the temptations of their own nafs, their own soul.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's true. Yeah, let's continue.
If you ask 3 philosophers how social constructs work, you'll get 4 theories. So we're going to look at one by a philosopher called Oshta. She's Icelandic, so she only has one name. I chose it not because I have any particular attachment to it, but because I think it's interesting, and it'll give you a flavor for how philosophers tackle these questions. It goes like this. Suppose that you're watching a game of baseball, which, if you've never heard of it, is like cricket, but it's even worse. The guy who throws the ball, the bowler, he throws it towards home wicket where the batsman is, and he hits it. And the bowler has to throw the ball within a certain zone. And if he gets it in the zone and the batsman misses, that's called a strike. And if you get 3 strikes, then you're out. But it has to be in the zone. If he throws it up here, then it doesn't count. And if it's very close to the zone, all the spectators go, "Oh my God, was that a strike?" And then the umpire has to decide. Oshta says there are natural properties about the trajectory of the ball. She calls them underlying properties or base properties. So she's thinking more augmented reality than full VR. The umpire is trying to keep track of those underlying properties, and in order to do so, he confers the social property, being a strike, onto the pitch when he says, "Strike one." So according to Oshta, being a strike is a social construct that serves some purpose in the game by keeping track of the ball's underlying properties. Similarly, on Earth 2, being a big is a social construct that serves a purpose in a social game by keeping track of people's height. Each of us
Okay, so basically here she's going on this whole thing about, again, this is a false analogy. Like, I mean, like a sport is obviously, a social construct. Like, no one's denying this. And then she's trying to equivocate this with like this trajectory of the ball, which is obviously not a social construct. So like, how is that like? But she's saying that the ball itself is not a ball. Like, that's her argument. Like, her argument is not that this ball is being thrown, and somehow the sports somehow that's the sport itself does not represent her position. You know what I mean? Are you there?
Yeah, yeah. I'm not really familiar with Ashta, the philosopher, because she, by the
Yeah,
way, from what I've noticed so far in the video, and I've watched the whole video, but what I've noticed, she quotes this philosopher specifically,
yeah,
as if that's the only book she read.
yeah,
But nonetheless, the analogy, the whole idea of it, you can
yeah,
already intuit that the author has a worldview that is naturalistic or
yeah,
presupposes naturalism.
yeah,
Okay, because even with the ball and everything is uh, being described through physical processes.
yeah,
So when they talk about the ball and the trajectory of the ball and how the ball is being directed,
yeah,
then she wants to say that the empire basically imposes, quote unquote, or uh, judges
yeah,
he makes his assessment by the way the ball is being thrown, if I'm not mistaken. This is my understanding of this analogy, because like I said, I'm not familiar with the work of Ashta, and I
yeah,
didn't really bother looking it up,
yeah,
because to me all this to me just sounds nonsensical. So at the end of the day, if the cricket game is like a baseball game or a basketball game, it's all a social
Yeah.
construct at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
what when if you going to say, okay, we need an empire to assist the situation, well, that's
Yeah.
why we have judges in on a social construct or in a social contract.
Yeah.
Because without if you study a bit of political philosophy, we need we need judges at the end of the day. If we
Yeah.
want to have a hierarchy instead of a
Yeah.
anarchy,
Yeah.
again, since this individual likes to go from one end of the spectrum to another, we need a hierarchy. If we have anarchy, there is no
Yeah.
judges. You're your own judge. If someone
Yeah.
comes and tries to rob your house, you defend your own self. We're back to
Yeah.
the Stone Age, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know what she's trying to say in terms of
Okay,
this.
so I think I understand what she's trying to say.
Okay.
So basically, she's like trying to make the point that this umpire deciding what like the ball
Yes.
is the same as us deciding what she is, right? So something like that.
Yeah, exactly. And this goes back to exactly you nailed it on the head. And this goes
Yeah.
back to the fact that with my analogy as well, one can say, okay, we have judges to decide between what's legal and what's not legal. If someone has done a right action or a wrong action, if someone infringed on someone else's rights,
Yeah.
and this is where it comes to the discussion comes towards at the end, because even if you talk to the pro-choice or anti-abortion people,
Yeah.
it all comes down to human rights. And this is why also when like I'm not going off on a tangent or anything, but this is why also Neil deGrasse Tyson, when he was being interviewed by the Jewish guy, what's his name, you know who I'm talking about, the Jewish guy, he has a channel as well, I forgot his name. Anyways, he has like a scrawny voice. But anyways, he was interviewing Neil deGrasse Tyson, and Neil deGrasse Tyson is an astrophysicist.
Yeah.
He's not a biologist. He's not a chemist or anything
Yeah.
like this. But nonetheless, he said, you know what? I don't care if it's biologically, if it's rooted in biology,
Yeah.
or if it's rooted in psychology.
Oh, you mean Ben Shapiro?
Ben Shapiro, exactly. Ben Shapiro. He's like, I don't
Right.
care if it's rooted in psychology or biology or physiology, whatever,
Yeah. Yeah.
as long as it does not infringe on a person's right. Then okay, this is a double-edged sword now, because if you're going to say the empire is judging the ball and how it's being the trajectory of the ball and how it's being directed, we
Yeah.
can say, okay, this is an assessment by an individual, okay, and
Yeah.
he's using the framework of within the boundaries of baseball or within the boundaries of basketball, soccer.
Yeah.
You have your limits, just like a judge has her limits or has his limits. So the same thing, we as human beings, we have to have boundaries at the end of the day, so no one transgresses these boundaries. And based on what are you going to assess this? You need to come up with first principles and philosophical justifications on why these so-called human rights are ethical or moral, and why should we as Muslims obey them or basically can function,
Listen to them.
listen to them and function through them like that,
Yeah.
So this is at the end of the
Yeah.
day based on first principles. It's
Yeah.
again an ethical argument, but through
Yeah.
muddying the water and being vague,
Yeah.
because that's what this individual is about. Because you see, let's be frank,
Yeah.
your thoughts make you. Your thoughts makes the individual, and this
Yeah.
individual, his thoughts has already made who he is, and he is vague. He's being deceptive. Okay, I'm sorry to say how it is, because
Yeah.
when I shared this video with one of my friends so he can help me out with it,
Yeah.
Muhammad Hanifa, shout out to him because he helped me out with the video. When I
Yeah.
shared it with him, he thought he was a female. I told him, no, bro, that's a male. So when you're being deceptive, even in your own arguments, you're going to be vague and deceptive.
Yeah.
We have to be direct, and this is why Muslims never beat around the bush. They're always direct. And in comparison, since we have Christian trolls, we're direct. You guys are not direct. You guys keep hiding behind the Trinity and trying to say it's logical or blah blah blah, and then we'll get you the Muslim metaphysician.
Yeah. Yeah, so basically she's like using like a false analogy. Like she's trying to make it seem like we're making the same type of judgment that a umpire makes regarding sports, but that's not, that analogy doesn't work here, because we're not making some kind of arbitrary like decision regarding what a woman is. This is a decision that will always be true no matter where you are or who you are. This is scientific, right? This is factual. Like this is not something we can change. I mean, like the, for example, if the umpire says something about the ball's trajectory, that is basically us saying the same thing about his gender. Okay, because that's not something you can
Yeah,
change.
exactly. You nailed it
So,
again, bro. You nailed it again because when a referee in a game or an umpire judges, whether it's like I said, cricket, basketball, baseball,
yeah,
soccer, football,
yeah,
they
yeah,
judge based on the boundaries and the philosophical underpinnings of these rules. Because by the
yeah,
way, these rules are sophisticated. Like
yeah.
if you, I actually wanted to be a referee at one point, and I went on the FIFA website to read the
Oh,
rules.
yeah, yeah,
And when you read the rules with a philosophical lens on, you realize that these rules actually make sense based on also the metric, the measurement of the field. And
yeah,
that's why if you look at the field, they have boundaries, they have lines, they have a
yeah,
lot of stuff. The goalkeeper has a box. They call it the box, the 18-yard box.
yeah,
These things have are these lines are made for boundaries and rules for players to, even in basketball, and you can't stay, if I'm not mistaken, 3 seconds or 5 seconds in the paint. They change
yeah,
the rules over time, but nonetheless the rules are predicated under philosophical
yeah,
underpinnings that you are justified within the game. And
yeah,
that way when we as the fans watch it, we can actually enjoy it.
yeah,
So if you, it's same with the boundaries in society. We have boundaries and we don't want to transgress these bounds so we can have a fruitful life and a
yeah,
beneficial life. And people also need to understand, okay, you're infringing on this person's rights, but what about the right of God? Where are you getting
yeah,
these rights from? Even though they can be arbitrary, in because I don't want to equivocate, they can be arbitrary in a sport field because we invented these games, but we didn't invent this dimension.
yeah, yeah.
We
Yeah,
just
like
came
we
into
didn't.
it and we
Yeah,
need to know what's going on.
yeah, like we didn't invent like the trajectory of the ball. Like it's gonna, no matter how you throw it, that's
Yeah,
how
laws of
it's been
physics.
thrown. Yeah, laws of
Yeah,
physics. We didn't invent that.
yeah.
We
If
also didn't
if
invent biology. So
yeah, so if there is laws in this universe that we did not invent, this
yeah,
necessitates a legislator at the end of the day,
yeah,
and the legislator would be God.
yeah,
So how about our laws? This is what we're
yeah,
talking about. Human rights are nonsense upon stilts. This is
yeah,
why, as Muslims, we don't condone them and we don't abide by them. We abide by God's rights.
yeah. Okay, so let's continue.
Plus has a lot of features, and only some of them matter socially in a particular context. Examples: I'm 168 centimeters tall and have shoe size 39. I have short hair and I'm wearing black pants. I speak English with an Icelandic accent. I'm extremely nearsighted, have moss green eyes and pale skin, breasts, broad shoulders. Some of these features matter socially in a context, others do not. What is it for a feature of you or me to matter socially in a context? The answer I give is a feature is socially significant in a context in which people taken to have the
Again, this is not the argument she's making. She's literally saying like some of these features that are intrinsic are not intrinsic. That's her argument, and yet she's trying to make it seem like her argument is like what this philosopher is making. You know.
Yes,
So
yes.
yeah, again, being kind of deceptive. Like for example, we're not saying that like, yeah, this is not some kind of vague like concept that you can argue about. Like what this guy is saying, yes, there are certain social context to like these rulings that you get from this, but she's saying that these intrinsic things like how tall they are or how broad their shoulder is, that itself is like
Mhm.
arbitrary. That's not.
Yeah. I mean, one can. I don't really understand the context uh, of this. What do you call it, quote by the
Yeah,
same philosopher again, Ashta. Like I told you, she uses the same individual as if this individual is her god.
yeah,
But nonetheless, I don't know the context of it because I haven't read the book. I don't know nothing about the author. But if one wants
yeah,
to say, okay, breasts and broad shoulders. Okay, maybe from an evolutionary perspective, having breasts and broad shoulders can be a sexual attraction, you know.
Yeah.
But I don't understand the it's all about preference, you know. Like if someone
Yeah.
prefers a short woman over a tall woman, it's just all subjective at the end of the day, you know.
Yeah.
But I don't know, like, what's the point of this? What is she trying
I,
to
th- I,
say?
I,
This is
I
just
think she's trying to say that, like, so basically she's saying any idea that's like based on biology or stuff like that, it's basically socially constructed. But that's not true. I mean, like, we can get ideas from biology that is not socially constructed, right? I
yeah,
mean, like,
yeah. I mean,
these ideas
this is
are not something you can argue. I mean, no matter where it is, everyone will agree that this is the same thing or a similar. Our ideas will always be the same. So this argument doesn't work. It's not arbitrary. However, like when it comes to like things like money or like what is a good movie, these are things we can argue. We can have a debate on. These are socially constructed things, but these are
yeah,
not. So yeah, that's the distinction here.
yes,
Feature
yes,
get conferred onto them a social status. That last bit is important. Baseball's one thing, people are another. Properties like being a woman, being a man, a mother, black, white, that's not a game. That's your life. Consider the property being cool
There
in
we
the
go.
context of a high school. If you're
yeah,
cool, you might be able to get away with stuff that other people can't. But at the same time, there could be expectations on you that might be stifling. It's a lot of pressure being cool, I imagine. It's pretty
yeah.
clear
I
how you
mean,
get a strike.
Yeah,
I've addressed this already. I mean, the
yeah, yeah,
definition of cool, or,
yeah,
but yes, we live in a in a society, we live in a realm where
yeah,
injustice also uh, is being basically spread out, you know,
yeah,
because
yeah,
we live in a world where you can't always have justice, you know, and that's why
yeah,
we as Muslims believe that at the end everyone will be held accountable.
yeah,
We believe in ultimate accountability, so everyone is accountable at the end, and the most just of judges will judge us all.
yeah,
So this individual is again being vague. Okay, they're trying
yeah,
to basically talk about human rights and her
yeah,
own rights is being infringed upon. That this individual wants to be if she wants to be a male today, she can
yeah,
be a male today, and if she wants to be a female today, she can be a
yeah,
female. Okay, do as you please in a in a secular liberal society. Do as you please,
yeah,
but who's going to take you seriously if tomorrow you decide to become a male
yeah,
again? You know,
yeah,
who's going to look at? They think you have a psychological issue, like bipolar issue. You know,
yeah,
but you know, and all these things. But anyways,
yeah.
yeah, this is about it, man. I don't want to go too much on.
Yeah, so basically she is using again like a false analogy, like being cool, there's no objective criteria what is cool. Like people can debate what's cool, that's the
Yeah,
point, that is a social construct. But
yeah,
that's not the case with like DNA. Like no one's going to debate what a DNA is, what its properties are. Even
yes,
if people have different ideas in like different universes, they'll still say the same or similar things, and that's the
yeah,
point. So these are not the same thing.
exactly. We have to assess things based on what they are, and we
Yeah,
have
yeah,
to assess them based on what they are and based on
yeah,
discernment and like good judgment. We're not going
yeah,
to just say, okay, let's just let it slide because we're infringing. Let the
yeah,
baby have his bottle, you know, as they say sometimes.
yeah,
Or come on, we're grown men now. We're grown adults,
yeah,
grown women and men.
yeah,
Let's behave like one. You know, let's
yeah,
stop playing this game.
yeah. So this this whole thing is basically, all we're saying is that something that is biologically rooted, that type of ideas or scientific ideas are not social construction. You cannot, like, there cannot be debates about this in society. However, there are things that we can debate about, like what's a good movie, what's being cool, right? These are things we can have difference of opinion on, but no one's gonna have a difference of opinion on what a cat is or what a woman is. So yeah,
Exactly, exactly.
let's continue.
In baseball, it's less clear how you become cool because there aren't really any rules. People just start treating you differently and you thereby acquire coolness. Nobody really decides it either. There's no umpire at the school
Well,
gates
let me
going,
actually say
"You're
something about
cool."
this. Let
It's
me say
just
something
Yeah,
about this because
yeah, yeah,
let's be frank, okay? Because and this is something that we see in a lot of people.
yeah,
When we look at someone who has the attributes that are like attributes that we can aspire to, or attributes that are influential.
Yeah.
That's when we can say, okay, this guy is cool. Okay,
Yeah.
but again, this actually has an objective. I'm going to have to basically say that there is an objective way of looking at people and saying they're cool. Nonetheless, in a societal context, people use it arbitrarily. People use it based on their own subjective biases. But the
Yeah.
definition of cool being composed, being calm, if you take that position,
Mm.
then that's a position that we all aspire to. We want to be
Yeah.
composed, we want to be calm, we want to be at peace.
Yeah.
This can provide you with a chill attitude, with a cool attitude. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
The same thing with when someone is basically, when you see a basketball player. Okay, now a
Yeah.
basketball player is by definition can be cool if he knows how to play, like LeBron James. And when
Yeah.
we see him doing his dunk,
Yeah.
or Shaquille O'Neal or Kobe or MJ, we aspire to them because of this honest, we say, we're in awe, we're in an awe state, we're
Yeah.
in we're aspired by it. Like when we look at a mountain, for example, there is a painter, there's an artist, and that's Allah. So the
Yeah.
same thing applies with the individual who possesses the attributes. We aspire to them. So this is, but if someone possesses an attribute that is faulty, and then there is a misconception. So if we look at this individual right now with their attitude and the way they present themselves in a mechanic shop, the theme and whatnot, the people without an epistemic foundation, the people who have been beguiled, will look at him as cool. And that's when the definition becomes basically, what do you call it?
Meaningless.
Meaningless, or it becomes distorted. You distort the definition of what cool is, and you end up changing definitions and terms. And this is why if someone is going to look at this individual and be beguiled and say he's cool, then they have distorted the definition of cool, because the definition of cool actually comes with composure and calmness and so on. But it can be applied in so many ways as well, like the ones that I mentioned. When a person is in a state of awe, looking at something, they are inspired by it. So if people are inspired by you, it's not a positive inspiration by this individual. It's actually a beguilement, a deception. So it swings both ways, if someone is being influenced positively or negatively.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, and that's the thing. Like, I mean, this is something like she's using like an analogy that is kind of vague, and that like trying to make it seem like somehow this represent her argument, but it doesn't. Like being cool, like no one's gonna objectively say someone is cool or not, unless like from like a religious sense. Like for example, like if Allah Subhanahu wa Taala says someone is good, then that person is good because he's all
Yeah.
knowledgeable.
And
Right.
also
But
goodness.
people
Yeah.
cannot like decide that. Like I mean, there can be disagreements.
Exactly. And
So
by
it's
the
arbitrary.
way, like we can also distinguish based on the basics, based on the basics of what is good and what is bad, because it's embedded in us. We have a moral compass, which is the fitra, that
Yeah.
can tell us what is good and what is bad to a certain extent. To a certain extent, we can say this is good and this is bad, but then we need objective morality with an anchorage from Allah on a more sophisticated level. But nonetheless, if someone is going to say impose their own definitions on things, then guess what? Epistemic nihilism is the fact of the truth of the matter at the end of the day, and moral nihilism as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, for example, I mean, if someone is like saying someone is cool based on outside of like some kind of un-Islamic paradigm,
Yeah.
then obviously that's arbitrary. Like you cannot like argue against that.
Yeah,
Or
even
say that either way. Yeah.
even through common sense. I mean, coolness has a definition. It means to be chill, to be composed. In this context, the semantics that we use in this day and age, it means to be composed and chill and relaxed. This is what cool is. Even in the 80s, they used it that way, when Samuel L. Jackson says, be cool, you know what I'm saying? In the movie Pulp Fiction. So coolness has a definition.
Yeah.
And we know what it
He's
means.
changing the definition. Yeah.
Yeah, but then people, like I said, one can be I don't want to dwell too much on it, but one can actually go as far as saying, okay, this is influential in a bad way and influential in a good way.
Yeah. So that's kind of
Just the community decides to confer coolness on you or not, maybe even unconsciously. In baseball, the umpire was trying to keep track of the underlying properties of the ball's trajectory. On Earth, too, they were trying to keep track of the underlying property of height. But what is the underlying property of being cool?
Yeah, I just told
Well,
you.
it probably isn't just one, right? It's probably like a vague bunch of things, like wearing the right clothes and having.
Like also like again like she's using slippery soap. Like where does she go from where? She's first saying talking about like baseball. Like I
Yes.
mean, okay, trajectory of the baseball is no one is gonna disagree on that. Like that is what it is. The same way, if you go to the like on Earth too, where they're saying like some people are tall or some people are like short. Yeah, sure, no one's like arguing that. But then she goes on to like being cool. Like how does that follow?
Yeah,
You know?
this individual is trying to say, listen, everything is subjective,
Yeah,
so it loses its meaning,
yeah,
pretty much. So if she's dressed like this is cool from her own perspective. From our perspective, this is not cool because a man shouldn't dress like that, as an analogy, But nonetheless, I mean, like I gave you that, we can set a criteria and say cool has a definition, means to be composed and calm, and we can say, okay, she seems composed, she seems calm, okay, she's cool, but not from the
keep track
perspective
of
of
the-
what she has on.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, okay. I'm trying to cover the legs, the subtitles, but it's not like working.
underlying properties of the ball's trajectory. On Earth, too, they were trying to keep track of the underlying property of height. But what is the underlying property of being cool? Clothes and having the right attitude, liking the right music. It's not really a set list, and you don't have to have all of them. Philosophers actually have a word for this vague bunch. It's called a homeostatic property cluster. It comes from biology. Think about a word like mammals.
Okay, now she's gonna lose her mind. Okay, let's
Yeah.
continue.
Mammals have a whole bunch of properties. We have warm blood, we produce milk, we give birth to live offspring. And if an animal has enough of those properties, we say, okay, that's a mammal. But it's not a hard and fast list. The duck-billed platypus lays eggs, but it's definitely a mammal. Who decided that? Is there a platypus umpire? No, sadly. It's the community again, the scientific community. The philosopher Richard Boyd says the whole point of classifying animals is to be able to predict and explain things about them. That's the science game, if you like. And that's
Okay,
what
so here again, she's committing like a faulty comparison fallacy. She's like trying to make it seem like uh, an area in science where there is debate.
Yes.
Because there is debate there, therefore there can also be debate here, right? No, I mean, like
not the
no one
same.
is debating DNA. No one is saying that chromosomes does not have this type of properties. Same way, no one is saying like this, like what is she says, platypus doesn't have this type of properties. They're just defining it and arguing about it, but no one is denying that these set properties does not exist. But
Yeah,
that's what
listen.
she's saying.
Yes. The platypus analogy. The
Yep.
platypus is a evolutionary enigma. It's this creature that that lays eggs, like she said, and has a beak and like a duck, and looks
Yeah.
like a beaver, like a mammal. But
Yeah.
then they classify it as a mammal. Okay, whoop-de-doo, based on the clusters that she mentioned, because there is something called in natural kinds as well that is called cluster realism. Natural kinds are co-occurring cluster of properties used for induction. Okay, and that's in the metaphysical aspect. So also in from that perspective, it's in biology, and in biology you can have a conventionalist approach of natural kinds as well, or promiscuous, become a promiscuous realist. And these definitions, people can look them up if they want, but nonetheless, this mammal is like is an anomaly. Okay, it's an enigma.
Yeah.
So
It's an
we
exception.
have
It's an exception.
it's an exception,
Yeah.
but they assisted based on I believe she said based on the more dominant trait, if I'm not mistaken. That's how the scientists assisted, based on the most dominant trait that it possesses. Then they classified it as a mammal. from what this individual is saying in the video, Abigail.
Yeah.
Okay, but
Yeah.
nonetheless, we have androgynous people, and we
Yeah.
have like hermaphrodites, androgynous people,
Uh-huh.
also in the human species. So
Uh-huh.
again, based on the most dominant trait or the most dominant attribute that this individual biologically,
Yeah.
then that individual can basically, if they wish to proceed with a surgery, they can go ahead, but and only maintain the dominant trait, and that's it. Or
Yeah.
they can maintain both if they want. But these individuals are also considered, if they're Muslims, they're considered our brothers in Islam and sisters,
Yeah.
because they were born. One can say born just like that platypus. It's a anomaly. It's an enigma.
Yeah.
So this is how it is.
Also, I mean, like, it's a faulty comparison. Like, a platypus and a woman is not the same.
Yeah, a woman is a female,
Yeah.
point blank. A
Yeah.
man is a male, point blank.
Yeah.
When it comes to these anomalies, that's when we have to now use
Yeah.
biology and use a
Yeah.
scientific lens to see
Yeah.
which one is the most dominant
Yes.
characteristic
Yes.
and the
Yes.
most
Yes.
dominant trait.
Exactly. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's what they did with the platypus, as this
Yeah.
individual just stated in the video.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah. Yeah. It's just a faulty comparison. Let's continue.
Why homeostatic property clusters are so
Actually, I think I have like an animation of like. Oh, okay, here we go. Let me see. Here we go.
Faulty
Yeah.
comparison.
Yeah. So basically, it's like a faulty comparison. Yeah.
useful. Properties in the cluster tend to occur together in nature, either because having one causes you to have the rest, or because there's some underlying mechanism that causes them to occur side by side. So, if you know that an animal has warm blood and it gives birth to live offspring, you can predict X, Y, and Z about it because the properties tend to occur together. When European scientists first encountered the platypus, they were confused. Some people thought they were faking. Others thought they belonged
Let's
in a
skip
category
ahead. I mean,
all
we
their
already kind of
game.
debunked this, right?
You've got to classify them as mammals.
Yeah, you can
On
skip.
Earth
There's
Zero,
a lot of things
ends
that
game different.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're
Those
basically
are
whining about
nonsense. Yeah.
whining about
things
platypus.
are adorable.
So there's a good video like platypus.
Remember earlier on, I was talking about how the high school community confers the property of coolness on you? Or the scientific community
By the way,
confers.
I want to say like my apologies to the Muslim viewers. I'm trying to like cover her legs, but like if it was like an offline video, I could have like blurred her, but like
It's
it
a
won't
man's
take-
leg anyway. Well, yeah. Yeah, we should cover it nonetheless.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
It's okay, no biggie. Just let's skip through the nonsense.
The property of mammal on the platypus?
By the way, can I like skip ahead? I mean, like, can I like make it faster? I mean,
Yeah.
she doesn't
We
finish,
should
just
have done that. Yeah,
conclude. Yeah.
we're past halfway, so yeah, let's just make it quick.
Yeah, sure.
What if communities disagree? What if someone was like, actually, the only important thing for deciding whether an animal is a mammal is whether or not it.
Yeah. When communities disagree, we know for a fact that it's a social construct, right? Because no one is going to disagree about what a woman is, or what a man is, or what a DNA is.
Exactly.
The fact that we're debating this, that whether whether she is a man, man or woman, shows that there's difference of opinion, which means this idea of her is socially constructed.
Yeah, we live in a system of disbelief, So when we live in a system of disbelief, it engenders people who want the disbelief, who want to have a figment of their own imagination. They want to have this basically illusion. They want to live in a delusion and not acknowledge the truth of their reality. They want to make up their own story. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So let's continue.
Lays eggs. What if the anime club think that you're really cool, but the Quidditch team don't? Are you cool? Why not? Ashta says there is literally no answer to that. There are underlying properties about you, but the social property of coolness and what exactly is in the cluster we're attempting to track depends on the game we're trying to play, which might not matter so much for being cool, but there could be some other social properties where it might really affect your life if somebody refused to confer them on you. We've been talking today about baseball and platypuses, but obviously what we're really
Refuse, like no one is refusing it. Like I mean, like this is not something, we're not saying you're a bad person because like you chose this, right? I mean, what we're saying is that you have certain intrinsic properties, and that properties cannot be changed. Like you cannot change your DNA, Abigail, right? Like I mean, you cannot change like your chromosomes, like even if you wanted
Yes.
to. And now we're not saying you're a bad person because you did so, but it's just something that you cannot change, and that's all we're saying.
That's all we're saying. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
it's biologically rooted,
yeah, yeah,
physiologically,
yeah,
but unfortunately, it's I would say it's a psychological issue. It's a spiritual issue. You
yeah, yeah,
know,
yeah. So yeah, let's continue.
talking about is sex and race and gender and all that good stuff. When I wrote the script, I deliberately went a bit more abstract with it because sometimes when we talk about social constructs, people get really angry. Like remember earlier on, I talked about social constructs being full VR rather than augmented reality? That was a reference to a philosopher called Judith Butler. They wrote a famous book in the 90s called Gender Trouble, in which they argued that sex is a social construct as opposed to a biological natural property.
Six. I mean,
yeah,
like,
this is how far these people want to go. They
what are you
distort
even gonna say to that?
reality based on their own mentality. You know what
Yeah,
I'm saying? They want to
yeah,
distort reality based on their own mentality. This rhymes. You know, we should keep that
yeah.
as a slogan.
I mean, there's nothing socially contracted about like sex. Like it's an act. It's a biological act. People do it. Like
Yeah,
how
it's
no one is
evolutionary.
debating this. Yeah,
Yeah, it's an evolutionary act for survival. You got to
yeah,
pass on your genes. I mean, even
yeah,
though we do more than that as human beings, I'm not just trying to say evolution is true, but I'm saying if it was true, even though we do more than that as human beings to the extreme of changing our own sex at this point, you know.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. Yeah, let's just
It's a
finish
pretty
this up.
fascinating book. It spawned a lot of interesting philosophy. Maybe we could talk about it in detail another time. But people get so angry about it. Even today, people protest Judith Butler, which is wild. I mean, nobody ever protested Socrates. Everybody loved him. Unfortunately, some of the people who get angry about social constructs aren't really making a philosophical argument so much as they are trying to rationalize a dislike of trans people, especially in my country.
No, no. I think we're being pretty rational, right? Right?
yeah, I mean, it all depends on your philosophical underpinnings and your
Yeah,
epistemic foundation. And
yeah,
this individual comes off as a philosophical naturalist at the end of the day. They
yeah,
just want to say here is physical processes and blah blah blah. But even that argument backfires. It backfires just like the analogy the individual's about to give about the airbag blowing up.
yeah,
It's going to blow up on herself as well. The what she has done, you know.
yeah,
The debate about who does and does not have the property, being a woman or being a man, isn't really about metaphysics. It's just a kind of proxy way of deciding whether people like me get healthcare and human rights, which is a shame. I mean, I think this philosophy is kind of interesting on its own. I wish we could talk about it without that. I said up top that social constructs are built into our environment, and the way we think about our environment facilitates different kinds of engagement with it. For instance, say you take your car in to have the airbags replaced after they've gone off, and the mechanic says, "Why did the airbags go off?" And you say, "Well, an onboard sensor measured a deceleration of greater than average braking speed, and that sent an electrical current along a circuit to a heating element, triggering a chemical reaction, releasing nitrogen gas." The mechanic might say, "Okay, but why did the airbags
okay,
go off?"
so again, she's like misconstruing what's happening here. So basically, all like what we're saying again is a scientific argument, or more like a philosophical. You can say that a scientific argument, which is that something is what it is, right? And this is something we all, as society and culture, agree on.
Yeah.
And this is not a social construct. Like that's all it is. And she's trying to make it seem like we're making a moral argument when we're not. This is a straw man. Like we're not making a moral argument. We're not saying you're a bad person or a good person. We're just saying this is not what you're saying it is, right?
Yeah, I mean, obviously she's not interacting with us. She's just making a video out there for
Yeah.
anyone who's
No, but I mean,
watching.
like she's kind of like throwing this blanket over her
Yeah, yeah.
opponents. Yeah,
She
and
she's been a lot vague, you know, in a lot of aspects, and I've already mentioned that plenty of times. And the whole video is vague. Towards the end, we end up
yeah,
realizing that the whole crux of the matter is that this individual wants to say that everything is a social contract, and
yeah,
and with the analogy she gave with the vehicle,
yeah,
if the airbag accidentally, you know, the sensor basically detects that there was a the brake pedal was there was a accident before the
mhm,
brakes before the
mhm,
de acceleration of the vehicle and
yeah,
whatnot, all the stuff that she just mentioned. Anyways, the bottom line is this: she's trying to say it all depends on the accident, on
yeah,
what caused the accident, and I don't know how is that relevant to what
Yeah.
exactly. Okay, these are the rules, because obviously if it makes sense, if someone,
Yeah.
if the vehicle is faulty, then yeah, take it to the mechanic and get it fixed, and then the insurance might not go up, but
Okay.
if you
I
drink.
think what she's trying to say is that, like, when she tries to bring up this argument, which is a metaphysical argument,
Yeah,
that is gender a social construct, people usually point to the biological stuff and say that it's not. So she said, yeah, but I'm trying to argue about metaphysics here. So that's basically what she's trying to say. But the thing is, you're
yeah.
applying metaphysics on an epistemic level, right? So I mean, like, so it's gonna boil down to epistemics. Like, I mean, like, and
Yeah,
when it
yeah,
comes to epistemic, we're not gonna disagree. Like, no one disagrees on this.
yeah. No
So
one disagrees on that. No one disagrees with the analogy she gave. I mean, I don't understand. Yeah,
yeah,
the insurance is going to tell you, okay, the policy might go up if you
yeah.
drank.
I mean,
It,
of course, when we're saying that what is a woman, we're gonna go
yeah,
to the science. Like, we
yeah,
have to. What else are you gonna do? We're just gonna arbitrarily say what things are. Like, I'm gonna look at this phone and I'm gonna say it's a cat. Like, how's that even make sense? Of
yeah,
course, we have
yeah.
to use science. Like, we have to use scientific arguments. Like, it's just, and based on that, we can say what it is. We're just identifying it for what it is. So
Exactly. Yeah.
that's not that's not like, I mean, and yes, this is not a metaphysical argument, you could say, but then the metaphysical argument would be whether it's actually good or bad. Like, I mean, from a religious perspective, like from an Islamic
From a
perspective, like,
philosophical perspective, at the end of the day, because you have to come, like I said in the beginning, with first principles,
yeah,
axioms, a philosophical justification to tell us
yeah,
why the crux of the matter that everything is a social construct. No, not everything is a social construct.
yeah,
Things are biologically rooted,
yeah,
and if you study natural kinds,
yeah,
you will realize that hey,
yeah, yeah,
it is what it is. It's
yeah,
tautological. At the end of the day,
yeah,
it
yeah.
is what it is.
Yeah. I mean, there are philosophers who says the same thing we did, right? I mean, like, so, like, and yeah, I mean, like, there are certain things that are just the way it is,
Yeah, and I've
and
said in the beginning there has been more disagreement in philosophy than any other discipline. So if you're
yeah,
going to come off and tell us, okay, philosophers say this, philosophers say that, yeah, you're trying to muddy the water by telling us everyone is disagreeing.
yeah,
Yeah, well, that's why then we need an axiom, we need an anchorage, because
yeah,
everyone is disagreeing, or else life becomes everything is subjective, life becomes meaningless. Nihilism is the fact of matter.
yeah. So basically, I think, like, what she's trying to do is, like, she's making an epistemic argument, but she's vaguing it by using, like, metaphysics. You know what I mean?
But coming
Like,
off with a blasé attitude, being
yeah,
bombastic, using big diction,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
all tactical to beguile the audience, and that's just
yeah,
what I usually say:
yeah,
sophistry and casuistry. That's it.
yeah. Let's continue.
And you say, I had 19 pints and crashed into a wall. If you give that first explanation about sensors and nitrogen, well, then I guess we just have to fill another airbag. But if you give the second explanation about drunk driving, well, now we need to talk about your insurance. Depending on how you explain the problem, different solutions present themselves. When we talk about social constructs, the implication is that the constructs aren't fixed. We could change the stuff that we projected onto the world if we wanted to. At the very least, we could ask, why are we projecting?
No, you cannot change DNA. You cannot change chromosomes. Like, we get our ideas from these things. If you have, like, some kind of metaphysical idea about the world, then we're getting it from that, right? I mean, like, I mean, and from an Islamic point of view, like, this is based in reality. I mean, as you described.
Even if let's go with an extreme example that just popped in my head.
Okay,
Let's
okay,
assume science advances
okay,
to the point of actually changing a person's complete physiology. Like
okay,
the ship of Thesis, we would say it's intrinsic. It's something that is the essence. The essence is the soul.
yeah,
And if you've been assigned with a body that is, you've been assigned with that body. I didn't choose to be a man. I didn't choose to be a woman. I was assigned. It wasn't based on my free will. I told God I want to be as big as Shaq or something like that. I would just put in this body. You know what I
I
mean?
mean, you're pretty big, bro. I mean,
But not a Shaq.
alhamdulillah.
Anyways, so let's just go with that analogy. Let's assume science can change the whole thing.
Yeah,
It goes back to the ship of Thesis. Is no longer, is this your body or is it not your body?
yeah,
Is this you or is not you?
yeah,
The essence is basically something that is metaphysical, something that is abstract, something that is
yeah,
spiritual,
yeah,
and that this is it can affect the person's psyche
yeah,
to the point of making him go mad.
yeah, yeah.
And that's why a lot of people commit suicide and whatnot, because you're assigned with something, stick with it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's not like it's a disease. I mean, if you have a disease, yeah, we have to remove it. It doesn't. Do not equivocate because some absurdist can come and be like, okay, you're assigned with cancer, stick with it. No, no, do not equivocate.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, basically she's like, you know, she's trying to say that like this is something we can disagree on, but it's not. It's not something. I mean, I don't think even she is like disagreeing on this point. Like you know, when it comes to like gender, I mean, look, just admit that you changed your gender. Okay, I mean, what's wrong with that? Like, I mean, that's all it is. Like, I mean, like, you don't have to like say that oh everything is a social construct. I mean, you're just muddying the water. Like,
What do
just
you
say that
know?
you know we changed our gender or we changed our appearance. That's it. Like, I mean, like, why is that problematic?
Yeah, that's why they call themselves trans. You know,
Yeah.
transgender,
Instead, they like to change everything. Like, everything is a social construct, which is
everything.
nonsense.
Yeah, they want to impose their own ideology on everything. They
Yeah.
want to say that basically it's just a social contract. If you don't agree with us, then you don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. All right. Let's finish up.
Vista. Whose interests does it serve? There's an inherent possibility of changing society here, which is therefore inherently political, and that can be pretty scary. For instance, consider that the gay rights movement in my country leant hard on the idea of born this way, the idea that homosexuality is innate and therefore can't be right or wrong. We can imagine that on Earth,
Okay, so this is absolutely bogus, by the way. There's no scientific evidence for this. This is complete baloney.
3, they made a different argument. More like whether it's innate or not, it's not the government's business, like a personal freedom line. I'm not saying either approach is better. I'm just saying we can imagine a world in which the meaning of gay is socially constructed differently.
So yeah, basically she lays down there are three arguments in regards to this. So there's this argument that you know people are born this way, which is false, scientifically wrong. Then that argument has fallen apart, and then the argument is like you know it doesn't matter, which is what you're talking about. Like Neil deGrasse Tyson makes this argument like it doesn't matter. I mean,
It's
because
a,
the
it's
right,
a human's right and
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
person's freedom. You're infringing on someone's
yeah, yeah,
rights and freedom.
yeah. So
But
you know,
this in of
yeah,
itself is the social construct now, the human's right and the freedom.
yeah, yeah,
And that's why I said in the beginning, come with first principles or axioms or philosophical justifications to let us know
yeah,
if what you're saying is actually true. But
yeah,
you cannot substantiate that
yeah,
or justify it philosophically and
yeah,
demonstrate why we should agree with you based on
yeah,
first principles. You can't.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
just subjective and arbitrary and
yeah.
nonsensical.
Yeah. So basically like, and the thing is that like, and that's basically, by the way, which is I wanted to say this, which is
Yeah.
by the way, this is a naturalistic fallacy, right? So for example, just because something is a certain way does
Okay.
not
Yeah.
mean you can get your morals from it, right? Like for
Yes.
example, just because like a dog likes to pee on the street doesn't mean you can go and kill the dog, because a dog peeing on the street tells you nothing about what you should do in regards to this, right?
Yeah.
So
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
so yeah, so anyone who makes this type of argument is a fool, but then you have to bring a moral argument, like a metaphysical moral position. Like for us, we're Muslims, we can say that this is wrong because Islam says so, because of X, Y, and Z reason. Okay,
Yeah.
that's our argument. Like
And
that's
we
like a
have a
moral position.
justification for it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And she has to bring her argument as to why we are wrong,
Why we are
right?
wrong. That's it. Yeah.
But she's not saying it. She's instead attacking the science, or kind of like saying that this science is like, you don't have to look at the science and say that you can say that gender is like a social, completely social construct, which is not. Like it's
Yeah.
biologically rooted, and
Yeah.
it's yeah,
Why is the status quo today under liberalism is true? That's the
yeah,
question.
yeah,
Why
yeah,
should we agree? Why should someone come with the slogan, bro, it's 2022, wake up, and all these slogans throwing at
yeah,
us while
yeah,
we have to tell them, no, listen, morality is objective. Morality has to have an anchorage.
yeah,
It provides us with it provides us with functionality, and it actually it's conducive and beneficial
yeah,
to humanity
yeah,
as a collective,
yeah,
the moral ethics, Islamic moral ethics,
yeah,
and it doesn't cause dysfunctionality
yeah,
between from it actually it starts off with the structure, the family,
yeah,
and from the family you can actually build societies. If the family is already dysfunctional and
yeah,
you start from the household, then you cannot build anything else. You can't even build your own self.
yeah,
Start out, and this is the like Daniel Hakikachi always speaks about family structure and whatnot.
yeah,
This
yeah,
is where it comes from. If you have siblings or children who all of a sudden come out and they want to go out and do this type of stuff, you will not have a you'll have a dysfunctional family at the end of the day.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's continue.
But if you say to a gay person, hey, you know homosexuality, that's just a social construct, we might be like, whoa, what are you saying? Because the concept of gay rights is built on top of it. So it's worth remembering that we aren't really talking about baseball and platypuses. We're talking about people, and therefore questions of justice arise in how we should apply this metaphysics. If Usher is right,
Again,
and
this is
man
a
and
moral argument, but that's not the argument like she made before.
the woman are socially constructed categories that we apply in order to track some underlying cluster of natural properties, we might then ask, if we're playing the justice game, what should be in that cluster? And separate but related question, what should the law say about it? I deliberately chose non-controversial examples today to help you get a grasp of metaphysics without getting bogged down in questions of justice or pushing my own views. But it's worth remembering that that is an artificial separation.
Yeah,
When-
but she did kind of push her views. Like, what is she
Yeah.
talking about?
She's pushing. See, like I said, this person comes off as deceptive, because
Yeah.
if you carry yourself in a deceptive manner, and this is an axiom. This is something fundamental. If you carry yourself as a deceptive individual, we don't know whether you're female or male. Your speech is going to come out as deceptive, and you will beguile a lot of people. And that's why the whole video, when you first, by the way, send it to me, and I told you this, by the way, already. I don't know what the hell this person is doing or talking about until I had to watch it again and again and again. I'm like, okay, now I know what the crux is. The crux is this individual is trying to say it's just all social construct. And I had to actually read the comments because I wanted to know if his fans or her fans, since she has like 1.1 million subs,
Big.
understand what this individual is saying. But the fans are, but then one fan said something that is basically all rooted in a social contract. So I'm like, okay, that's what this individual is trying to say in all this muddy water and smoke screens and machine gun tactics and all this nonsense. You know what I mean?
When you leave the classroom, politics and metaphysics will come at you at the same time. We're not just doing philosophy for the hell of it. We are tinkering with the engine of the world here. So drive safe.
All right. So that's the end of the video.
Thank God.
That is the end of the video. By the way, I want to leave a message for Abigail if she is watching, just in case.
Yes.
By the way, we don't mean to be disrespectful in any way.
Yes.
We're just like trying to have fun and like try to discuss your ideas or arguments. By the way, if you would like to discuss this with us or debate us or in anything, then you are welcome to come onto the show, and inshallah we'll talk to you, discuss with you if you're interested, right? And would you be interested in debating her or discussing it with her or him, I guess?
I mean, you caught me off guard, man. I mean, if the time permits, if my time permits, I wouldn't mind having a discussion, even if it's private at first. Just to synchronize and get to know the individual before we just do it live in front of everyone.
Sure. Yeah. So yeah, Abigail, you're welcome if you wanna like even make a response to this like live stream. That's all right too. But yeah, with this, I think we should. By the way, do you want to take live calls right now? We can like do 10 minutes.
Okay, yeah, we can take a few questions. I
Okay,
still
okay,
have
okay.
time. Yeah, we can do that.
Okay. Let me just invite certain people. Let's see if people have any questions or they want to challenge what we said. All right. Okay, so I'm gonna share the StreamYard link with you guys. If you guys want to come and talk to us, we have pinned it. And inshallah, if you guys want to, by the way, there are certain rules. Please do not insult the Prophet Sallallahu or Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. I'm gonna kick you out if you do that immediately.
And stay on
also-
topic.
Yeah, stay on
That's
topic.
okay. Yeah, they
Yeah.
can stay on
Stay
topic.
on topic, and don't use like too much vulgar language. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, let's see. Let's do like a half an hour. Is that okay?
Okay,
10
yeah,
minutes if you like.
maybe, like 20 minutes, 15 minutes, if you don't mind.
Yeah. Sure.
Okay.
I mean, we don't have a lot of people watching us anyway right now.
Okay, then that's good. That's better.
By the way, if you guys like wanna come onto the show right now, we'll love to take some. Okay, so we have Brother Jafar here. Assalamu alaikum, Brother Jafar. Can you hear me?
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Am I audible?
Yeah. We can hear you. Do you have a question?
Yeah, could you turn off the video, by the way, while you watch it?
Yeah.
We got a feedback.
Yeah,
Turn off-
I just did that.
Okay.
So, do you want my camera to be on or
It's up to you.
okay?
Yes.
Yeah, so I just wanted to ask, like, when you say social construct,
Yeah,
what do you mean by that? Because, like, from what you said, and I've already watched Abigail's video,
yeah,
like, I really didn't see a lot of like conflict between you two. I kind of felt like in some areas you were talking past each other, because like something can be biologically rooted
yeah.
and there can be a social construct around it, and
Hmm.
it's still a social construct, though it's like built by humans. It's not actually there in nature, right? So like let's take race for example. Do you think race is a social construct?
Do you want to answer that?
Okay, yeah. So I mentioned natural kinds. Okay, so natural kinds are discussed in philosophy, and they're pretty much things that exist in nature. You know what I'm saying? So, and the best example I can give you is in chemistry, the table of elements, and that's what I mentioned in the beginning. So we have like gold, silver, platinum, and the elements. The other elements. I can't memorize all of them, obviously, but these exist in nature, and they're defined. So if another reality defines them differently, they do not change in essence. They do not change in their physicality. They're still the same. You understand what I'm saying? So
Yes,
this
but
is what we mean by not a social contract. They exist in
Yeah.
they're rooted in nature. They're rooted in the physical, in the material. So we have the definitions. For example, من Islamic lens, Allah says وَعَلَّمَ آدَمَ الْأَسْمَاءَ كُلَّهَا. So Allah taught Adam all the names and all the definitions, all the terms. So if Allah named this a rock or a mountain, then this is what it is to us as well. Okay, because he's the one who created this. You understand what I'm saying? That this
yeah,
is all we're
so
saying pretty much.
again, I'm not contending that. My contention is that social construct does not comment on what something actually is. It's like, kind of, to put it roughly, the boundary that we draw around a certain thing. So
Okay.
like for example, if you have two floating vessels, right, there is no denying the fact that they are floating vessels with buoyancy. They're made out of, like, let's say steel or wood or whatever.
Okay.
But what you describe as a boat and what you describe as a ship, that's a social construct. So like for example, up to a certain size we call a floating vessel a boat,
You know,
and
can I
once it
interject? Can I interject? I think that's not what Abigail is saying. Like, for example, Abigail is saying that gender is socially constructed. Like, do you agree with her?
if we are differentiating between gender as a form of expression and sex as biological sex, then kind of, yeah.
Okay, so like biological sex, do you think it's something that can be changed?
No.
Okay, then that's basically what we're saying. Then,
Yeah.
like, I mean,
Yeah,
when
but
it comes
like,
to DNA or chromosome, it's not something you can change. Now, even if you have ideas about it, like, so, for example, we have certain ideas about our in our society, what a man is, what a woman is. Like those ideas are rooted in that. I mean, like that's not something that can be changed. Now, if you want to add something to that,
see, again, I'm not
yeah,
contending on that issue. I'm not saying that it's not there and that it cannot be changed. As I
yeah,
said, if there are two floating vessels, they are made of wood. That can't
yeah,
be like changed, as in, like, just by because you say that it's not wood
yeah. But
doesn't mean
she's
it's not
saying
wood.
that can be
Okay,
changed,
hold
right?
on. The analogy that you gave about the
See,
boat.
again, I'm not like complete, like, Alhamdulillah, I'm a Muslim. I'm
Yeah.
not disagreeing completely with you guys, and neither
Yeah.
am I agreeing completely with Abigail. So I myself,
So
I'm more.
wait. Let's tackle the crux because we don't want to muddy the water. You said you don't disagree with Abigail, so you don't disagree completely with Abigail in the sense of that that gender is what exactly? Is it a social construct, gender, or isn't it like sex?
Gender, I would say, is, sex isn't, if we are like making that differentiation.
There is no distinction though. Like
What's the
gender is
distinction?
what
Yeah.
the sex is.
Well, if we see in current discourse, often gender is often described as the expression of certain things, and
Uh,
sex has to do with like biology or genitalia, sexual
No, gender would
primary
be the
sexual
same thing.
no,
characteristics.
What's the expression? What do you mean by the expression of things? Like if someone
Like
is a
masculine
male.
and feminine, for example.
No, no. This is just if someone has a masculine characteristic. You mean, or a trait, an attribute? If someone is a male biologically, but he acts feminine.
Yeah, in that way.
Yeah, but we
Yeah, but
if okay, go ahead, go ahead.
yeah, but in that case, he would be a man. Like that
Yeah,
would be his gender.
Yeah,
Like
so
for
that would be
example,
his gender. If you're
okay,
going to
let's
fill up an
let's let's
application, hold on, let me say something. If
okay,
you're
I
going
just
to
have a
fill up,
question. Just
let me
just
just complete what I have to say. If you're going to fill up an application based on the trait, that's not going to identify anything, because I can say, okay, my trait is that I'm a D type personality, or an S type. If you study the personality tests, this has nothing to do with the discussion. The discussion is based on who you are as a specimen, as a body, as a
and
human
again, here
being.
I'm agreeing with you. I'm not saying that we can change the what's intrinsic.
Okay.
I'm just saying social construct as in the boundaries we draw around certain things. Those are socially constructed. Those are created by us, and
no,
that's why I
no,
was
no, that's not true.
okay. So
Like the
do you mind if
boundaries
we
that
talk
we
about
draw,
race?
well, like for example, the boundaries that we draw are rooted in something objective. Like this is not going to change.
But
Like no
we
matter
draw
which
the
society,
boundaries. Yeah, but we draw them. That's
it
what I'm
doesn't matter.
trying
Like
to
we
get at.
draw the boundary based on what's already there, based on something
Yeah,
true.
and
You know what I mean?
that's what a social construct is. That's
No, that's not a social construct though. Like me, that is an idea that is
Okay,
based on
listen, the
biology.
analogy that you gave with the ship, one can argue philosophically that the ship is artificial. Okay, the ship is artificial. It's not something that you find in nature. So one can say it's something that we constructed, and the ship by definition is a ship nonetheless, even if you want to
okay.
call it
Then we
something
can
else.
just like okay, I get your point.
You
So
get
we
my
can
Okay,
point?
take
bro,
an
I think I
example
will have to
from nature as
let
well.
you
Let's
go. We
say
have
hill and
another
mountain.
guest, if it's okay.
Well, listen, I
Thank you
don't
for
quite
coming, by the way.
understand what you're trying to get at. If you want to say things are socially constructed, no matter what, even the genetics are socially constructed, I'm going to tell you, okay, some things are embedded naturally.
Yeah,
So how is that
Again, I
socially
never
constructed?
disagreed on
yeah,
that.
yeah.
So
Okay, okay,
if the
bro, I
boat
have to let you go. Thank you for
okay,
coming.
one last
Inshallah.
comment if you don't mind.
Sure, sure.
So like okay, if you're saying that boats are artificial, we can like make a similar analogy with like
With
hill
what?
and mountain.
With what?
Hill and mountain. Like what you will describe as a hill and what you will describe as a mountain.
Okay, yeah, but mountains are not artificial. A hill can be artificial. Someone can construct a hill. So I
Not
mean, this
necessarily.
is we're deviating. We're going off the topic
Yeah,
now.
yeah,
We're going off on a tangent. This
yeah,
has nothing to do
bro.
with what we're discussing here
Yeah,
because
bro. Thank you for coming. I'm gonna take another question now. By the way, keep watching, inshallah. And inshallah we'll discuss in the future. Assalamu alaikum. Can you hear us?
Hello, hello. Um,
hi, how you
is
doing?
this actually a question? I'm supposed to be asking you a question, or
Yeah,
just
yeah,
going
sure.
on?
If you have a question or if you
Or
want
a
to challenge
comment,
anything I
anything.
said, yeah, yeah, sure.
Well, I just find that the fact that they are making us talk about this is part of their time wasting degeneracy, isn't it? I mean, why are we talking about this? We know what a man is, we know what a woman is, and men are supposed to do certain things, and women are supposed to do other things. And when we spend so much time discussing it, we are, kind of falling under their spell and wasting our time, and maybe even, arguing with each other and hating each other for not quite agreeing. And this is a kind of confusion that they are causing,
Yeah,
to themselves and other people too. It's like I don't think they even want to have children and marry now, because if we don't know if we're men or women, then we won't want to marry each other or stay together, because our mental health will be so bad, we nobody will marry us, or our
yeah,
children will be bad. And I think it's sad and scary, and
It is, yeah. We live in
is
a
there
in
any
a
explanation even why they're doing
we
this?
we live in scary times. As Muslims, we're going to be trialed. Throughout the ages, we're always going to be trialed until the end of days, as we believe in. So I mean, we have to talk about it. Fahad, when he contacted me, he told me, "Listen, let's put this LGBT thing in the coffin once and for all." And I know I agree with you. It is futile. you know. But at the end of the day, this is something that we're dealing with on a societal scale, and we have to face it as Muslims, and we have to tackle it and basically refute it.
Yes, by saying, these laws would, the thing that you allow would be a sexual offense or whatever, under the Quran. I mean, I think this is something so basic, and I think a lot of Muslims are kind of shy of saying that because, they think they're going to be called extremist, right? And
Exactly. Yeah. No, I agree with you. And now they trying to basically mute us, and mute the minority and not make us and not amplify our voice, and create an equilibrium and all these things. They just want us to stay quiet and accept what they impose on us. That's why we have social media, and we have these type of platforms where we can go online, like Fahad's channel, and discuss it freely, and also politely. We don't have to disrespect nobody, but we'll share our views and say, listen, we don't agree with you. It's that simple.
yes,
By the way,
and
sister, thank you for coming. Inshallah, maybe keep watching. Inshallah, we'll discuss maybe
I
in the
do have a
future.
question to ask you,
Okay,
though,
sure.
about objective truth, because discussing that with T-Jump, because I was talking to T-Jump too on the matter of objective truth, and he was saying basically that well, he's an atheist, so he's saying his view is better than anybody else's, and I think the danger there, if everybody is atheist, is everybody will say my idea is better than yours, and there will be a lot of fighting. Well, if we kind of accept there is the right law, we can see things more clearly, and that's really what I wanted to say.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, like I've made a debate review, and I basically covered like the whole aspect. And like the thing with like T Jump, I think he's like an extreme kind of naturalist, and he just kind of like goes by what like the atoms are, and what the particles are, and 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 yeah, I mean, like there's like not much else I can say about that. And so yeah, thank you for coming, by the way.
All right.
Inshallah, we'll discuss maybe in the future.
Okay.
So yeah, Assalamu
Thanks for
alaikum.
having me.
Assalamu alaikum.
All right. So yeah, I think we can end it here. I mean, I don't see anyone else.
That's fine.
So yeah, thank you, bro. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, thanks for having me,
It
man.
was great
It was
having
a
you.
pleasure.
Yeah,
Thanks.
it was great
As
having
usual,
you. Yeah, I think the show went pretty well, alhamdulillah. And
Alhamdulillah.
yeah, inshallah, we can have more shows in the future, inshallah.
Inshallah.
And yeah, thank you for coming. And yeah, inshallah, we'll see you next time, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. All right. Thank you guys for watching. By the way, I'm gonna end the show now. It's almost really late. It's like 11:40. By the way, brother Amy and Jay, I'm really sorry you couldn't join us. Inshallah, maybe in the future we can do another stream together. So yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I'm gonna end the show now, inshallah. And by the way, I haven't played the intro. I'm gonna play the intro now, and inshallah, then I'm gonna end the show. And yeah, I'm gonna end the show now. By the way, guys, if you wanna support me or support my channel, then please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And of course, support me on Patreon, inshallah, if you can. That would help the channel a great deal. And yeah, thank you for watching. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.